Well, every road I see leads away from me. There's not a single one that leads me home. The road keeps saying, friend, come see what's round the bend. So is it any wonder that I roam? All the places I have been keep calling me back again. Down in the pines I hear the cold winds blow. My heart keeps telling me, foot loose and fancy free. And the road goes by and calls me as it goes. Well, maybe somewhere there's a someone waiting with a smile. And maybe there'll be some place I can stop and rest a while. And maybe you weren't meant to be just a rolling stone. And there's a road to travel on that leads you back to home.
How we all are?
Howdy.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back to another one. Like as usual, we ain't got anything really planned tonight other than kind of discussing a little bit of Hollywood and history. Because that was the only thing we could come up with that we don't have to do any research on.
It's the easy way out.
Yeah, it's the easy way out. So anyway, yeah, I haven't been able to research much for a topic on here because I've been doing a lot of work on another project, which I guess I already talked about it on your guys' chat last week. We got the podcast in the works. I've recorded most of the audio for one of the episodes for that series. I got to go back and add a few more things. It's going to get... right now, I've got 16 minutes of audio recorded. And with the books I just got, there's going to be probably another 10, 15. So it's going to start to be, becoming just that one episode is going to be a pretty good sized episode. But the series is going to be on Red Clouds of War. For whatever reason, I decided to do episode 4 first. So I've got to go back and do 1, 2, and 3. But I've got books coming in. Because I really want to get a little bit more in depth with those episodes than what your typical podcasts get into. Because
we all know episode 4 is going to be the most exciting. So
yeah,
that's a good place to start.
Garrett has an idea of what it's going to be because he's going to be part of that episode, and the fact that he's going to be part of the whole series for doing some audio recording for me.
Yes, sir.
I have no idea yet for a release date on that podcast. Because there's a few other things I want to do with Garrett for recording some historical songs to go with it. So it's coming. I'd anticipate June if everything works out. If it doesn't work out, maybe a little later, maybe a little earlier if things work out real good. But,
I gotta say, I like your jacket.
Yeah, I like it too.
Did you make that, didn't you?
I didn't make this one. This one was given to me by a good friend.
Oh, very nice.
So, yeah, I acquired it from a friend when I worked up at Fort Laramie. Somebody giving it to him, and he just passed it along. So I put it to good use. So anyway, we're going to get through the comments, but I just happened to see Carrie Stottlemeyer's comment. I'm going to read it first, which I can select it now because I'm now an administrator, thanks to Garrett showing me how to do that.
I'm just here now.
Yeah, you're right, Gary. But yeah, we're going to get into it anyway. So, and if you've been here before, you've probably heard the same stuff before. But we're going to get into it a little bit more in depth. But yeah, I'm going to let Garrett go through the comments. That's usually what we do on here. After people have a chance to get in.
We got 41 people in, so we're doing 41.
We're doing really good.
We have Louisiana Gray and Chris Bird is in. Diane Houston says good evening. Louisiana Gray said looking forward to some high quality entertainment. Carrie Stottlemeyer's in here. Said rainy California standing by. Hello all. And then we have Victor Schultz and Brandon Birch said howdy howdy. Glad to be here. Jeremy P says hi everybody. Gots Loco. Louisiana Gray said Hollywood's mistakes can keep you busy talking, I'm sure. Gots Loco said good evening. Travis Lynn said hello. Gunsmith 4570, hello to all. Kodak Tackman, glad I was notified in time because I forgot about it. France Push said greetings greetings, hope all is well. Squiggly Brick 75 says hi. Clessy said good morning, fellas. Doug Dukes is in, says good evening all. Cool Hand David W says hello. Cool Hand says been waiting for this. Jeremy P said, we'll get to that question in a second. Jeremy P. Carrie Stottlemeyer said, oh yeah, I know, just being polite, ribbon. Old one guy's in. Hardy says hello, you silly humans, and just having fun is here. Says good evening, everyone.
All right.
You want to start with that question?
Yeah, we might as well. So the boy, I'm already getting tongue-tied. We ain't even in 5 minutes, 6 minutes. What do you think is the most historically accurate John Wayne Western? Now you're going to have to make me think. Probably Sansa Iwo Jima.
That's pretty good, yeah, historically.
I think it is. I think even a Western. Actually, on the Westerns, probably the most historically accurate have been North to Alaska.
Oh, yeah, because it's set in that late period.
By the time you get to that period, they actually have 92 Winchesters and 73 single actions. Yeah, I'd say that one is fairly historically accurate. I mean, as close as what the John Wayne movies get.
John Wayne's clothing was pretty good a lot of times.
Yeah, some of it was all right. Red River.
Oh, yeah.
They do use percussion Colts in Red River in that early, and that's kind of what the idea of that time period is. It was before the Civil War. It's kind of, I don't even really exactly know what. Be 10 years for the Civil War, so 1850s. Anyway, yeah, it starts out pretty good. By the time they get into the cattle drive, they're in the 1860s with 92 Winchesters and single action armies and 75 Remingtons. But that one was okay there at the beginning of it. And they were using Conestoga wagons.
Mm-hmm. I'll throw my hat in for, not that it's 100% correct, but the Searchers did a good job in a lot of areas, especially with Ward Bond's outfit and whatnot.
Yeah.
And if you really study the timeline as the girl gets older, the war's been over for 4 years when he gets home, so it's at least almost 70, and 10 years past, so it's close to 75, 6, 7, 8. He's getting pretty close in there with a few of the guns, at least. Yeah.
But you got to remember, in that period of time in the Western, there are few historically accurate Westerns. In that time period of American movies, probably The Outlaw Josie Wales is the closest to historical accuracy as you can really get. If somebody can think of another one, missing here. That Culpeper Cattle Company. That movie is. It's not one I'd watch in front of the kids, but that one's pretty spot on too.
One I just had in mind that is not necessarily a John Wayne, but it's pretty close, is How the West Was Won. He's in it.
Well, actually, that one ain't too bad either, yeah.
Especially Jimmy Stewart's character. He's pretty good. It's pretty spot on, I thought. Didn't you say something about his buckskins and his beating was really historical?
Yeah. Yeah, the buckskin in there, if you look at it, it looks like it's brain tan. Mm-hmm. And the beadwork is not bad.
And he has a full stock flintlock.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, at that time, they were Hollywood was not in there for let's make everything historically accurate. It was in there for let's see how many westerns we can make in a week. Because what was it, John Wayne? They were turning out a western every 3 weeks.
Pretty well, yeah, early in his career
when he first got started. Yeah, so it was, no, they were there more for putting them out. Let's see, a couple folks have chimed in. Big Sky with Kirk Douglas. That one wasn't too terrible bad. Wasn't too terrible bad at all. Mostly it was the locations, but I'm not gonna stomp on a lot of those locations because you can't get to the actual, or at that time I don't think you could film at the actual Independence Rock. Yeah, Big Sky wasn't terrible.
Yeah. I was watching the other night Tall T, Randolph Scott, and it's really good for the most part. It gripes me when those young guys are the young guns and they got those Buscadero rigs hanging almost down to their knees, and they're running around and those guns are flopping out like they're about to flop out of the holster. I'm like, oh, that would annoy me.
Whoever invented the Buscadero rig and whoever out there says that the Buscadero rig is historically accurate has never ridden a horse with a Buscadero rig on your hip.
It doesn't work.
The only thing keeping your gun in that holster is a tiny little string like that. Do you trust that tiny little string to keep your gun in when you're riding full bore on a horse?
Yeah.
No, that Buscadero ones, they came in with how did that one guy I was watching some guy on YouTube said there was two types of shooters, those that have been in combat and those that have been on flat ranges. Buscaderos are the flat range.
They had to Louis L'Amour had a thing about that. I remember in one of the books where he talked about it flopping around and something about you could wear that low slung gun tied down so long as you weren't riding over a pebble.
And I have a Buscadero rig. I used it for a number of years. First thing I did with it is the belt that I had was not a drop leg belt. It was a regular straight belt. I put that Buscadero rig on there, and then I went in and I put a piece of leather in there and stomped it down to where it had no flop to it whatsoever. It was set tight on that belt.
Now, what do you think about what about some John Wayne movies that are later on? Because some of them don't have defined timelines necessarily. What about the Shootist? It's easy to get it historically accurate then.
Yeah, that one's set about 1900?
Yeah, 1901 or something.
Yeah, that one's not bad.
Whenever Queen Victoria died.
And one thing I'll put, they kind of show the early carriages that go around before streetcars.
Yeah.
So the early style streetcar. So yeah, it wasn't that one wasn't too terrible bad. Most of John Wayne's, any of the John Wayne movies that are taking place in the later 1800s aren't bad. It's just that the one bad one is the Comancheros.
The Comancheros.
1848. You're not going to sell me off on 1892 Winchesters and 73 single action armies.
In the same scene with the blunderbuss.
And the same scene with the blunder. Yeah, no kidding.
The blunderbuss was right.
That one was actually accurate. Except I don't think it would knock that kid back like it had.
Your rifle's right there.
Okay, I'll come get it later.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, is our favorite brother back?
Yep. A couple of them are.
Okay.
Not talking about Westerns, but there's some of those, I like some of those Eastern Frontier movies that are pretty good from that era. I was just thinking of Drums Along the Mohawk. A lot of those
that
movies
was like
really good.
The Kentuckian?
Yep.
That one's really good.
Okay, the Kentuckian with Burt Lancaster or the Fighting Kentuckian with John Wayne?
The one with Burt Lancaster.
Mm-hmm.
That one was really good. There were some really nice long guns in that.
And then the scene in the very end where he's taking the time to wad that as he's running across that pond at him. Try to take it. I'm like, just throw the ball down the barrel. It's like, get it over with.
But they can't kill Burt Lancaster, okay?
Oh, that's true. I love the giant hunting horn he has, and he loads that rifle out of a flask, which would be proper for that time period.
Right.
So a lot of research went into some of those movies.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, there's some really good ones. With the Wild Bunch, that one's pretty historically accurate on the weapons. They're doing it right in the right time period where they're all of them are around. The Professionals is another good one.
Hardy says Big Jake set in 1909.
That's true. Yeah, that one's not bad either. It's set in 1909 there. Yeah.
It's only
Yeah, I forgot about Big
1909,
Jake.
Michael.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I was thinking that was 1880s, but it is 1909.
It's the Bergman model of 1910. It's only 1909, Michael.
And I actually looked that up, and it's actually it's a little earlier than that, the Bergman.
Well, there's a couple of them, yeah.
Yeah, but there was one that was on sale. I seen it was at an auction. I think it was $35,000 is what it went for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, the John Wayne movies. I mean, yeah, they are. I'll say the worst is the Comancheros, and the best is, anything. Shoot Us isn't bad.
What do you think about his version of True Grit, aside from the 92?
Yeah, that one. I mean, it's not terrible. The costuming is not good. That's one of the things that you see a lot of those westerns too. Is like a lot of them, they are dressed or using stuff that's set more in the 1890s, but his is not bad. The big reason why the new one I gave it grief is because Jeff Bridges was trying to play John Wayne and ruined it.
But at least he had 251 Navies.
He did have 251 Navies. I think Matt Damon made a better Texan.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
And Barry Pepper made Lucky Ned Pepper, an outlaw that, the kind of outlaw you'd expect to see.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Duvall, I mean, he played okay as Ned Pepper, but I like Barry Pepper a lot better.
I'll say this. I refused to like that for a long time because as soon as it came out, all the newer people that had never watched the old one were like, oh, this is so much better than the old one. Like maybe they watched it just to watch that one. And so I was like, okay, I saw it once and I was like, I sat down and watched it the other day and the music is what sells it for me.
The music's good.
Yeah, and the fact
Darby,
that they can film at night.
Right. I think if they'd have kept Kim Darby, John Wayne, and then put the other ones in there,
yeah,
then you'd have the perfect version.
It's a lot easier because that movie was written to emulate the language of the period, and that's
right.
why I feel John Wayne excelled in that, because I don't see. That's one show where I don't see John Wayne hardly. Do you?
No, in fact, that's one of the movies that I like John Wayne's acting the most because John Wayne is actually acting in that movie.
He's not infallible. This is not Chisholm.
He's not playing John Wayne.
No.
He's playing Rooster Cogburn.
And even in the first one, the language written up for Strother Martin in that scene with the horse trading is not something you see in 1960s Westerns. Just the way Strother Martin, he even enunciates, he places his pauses in different places. He sounds like he's from the 1800s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Victorian speech pattern.
Yeah. You notice that too? I mean, I don't see that in any other John Wayne movie.
No. But yeah, no, that one was... It's one of those mixes, and the courtroom scene, I liked it better in the new one than I did the old one. I can't think of the actor that played the lawyer. He's played in several Westerns. But yeah, I like that one scene a little better. It's just that Jeff Bridges just should have not tried to play John Wayne. And he claims he didn't, but he did.
It's so hard not to see, and he's not trying to be John. It's so hard not to see John Wayne's version of Rooster Cogburn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so iconic. But we'll go through a few of these comments for a little bit.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go through some.
Cool Hand said, Cool Pepper Cattle Company is one of my favorites. Carrie Sotomayor said, are we talking accurate as far as costuming and guns or storyline? Good point.
That is a very good point. Costuming and guns is just as important as the story because for the historian anyway, for your average person, they ain't gonna know the difference between either of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're gonna costume it, and costuming, that's one thing I'll give with the more modern westerns is the costuming and some of the weaponry has gotten better. But
with the weaponry, it has to be right because if you're talking a single shot muzzleloader and maybe a Colt revolver or even a single shot pistol, it's going to completely change the dynamics of the battle or how it would have happened.
Yep.
It's got to be done right. Let's see. The big trail that at least tried. Wayne at least had a muzzleloader, said Hardy. Kent said, good evening, all. Jolly Jake Lovell said there's one Gunsmoke opening title scene. Matt Dillon has to hold his pistol in his Buscadero or he would have lost it as he galloped back to Dodge.
Yeah.
That's one thing you got to give John Wayne movies. Not very often does John Wayne get out in the street and do the Wild Bill Hickok fast draw. He's always behind the water trough or the barrel somewhere.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a Buscadero either, but from what I understand is John Wayne messed up his shoulder during his college days. He couldn't draw from a Buscadero, so if you notice, he draws from back of his hip.
Way back there.
Because he's got tore rotator cuff. Can't come up. And I got a friend that he's law enforcement and he's left-handed and tore his left rotator cuff. And with his gun up high, even on his side, he could barely get it out. He basically grab it and then go straight out like this to get it out.
Did you ever ask him, hey, did you fall off your horse?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I will say that as far as what we were just talking about when they said, as far as the gunfight tactics, John Wayne movies are some of the best of the 50s, definitely 60s and 70s. Yeah. Falling off that wagon because, I mean, there are no heroes here.
Right.
Falling off that wagon in El Dorado. Jolly Jake. Oh, yeah, we read that one. Cool Hand said, yeah, holsters of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s hung way low. Hardy said, Big Jake was set in 1909. Cool Hand said, I like William S. Hart movies. Carrie Stottlemyre said, it's thought and claim that. Read that. I can't pronounce it. Or Arvaro Ogalala.
Arvo Oala.
Created the Buscadero rig.
Well, actually, there is a drop leg rig. Commodore
Perry, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not quite. It's not quite as exaggerated.
The belt. So it's two. And I think Doug Dukes is the one that pointed me out to that years ago. He's got 2 rows of cartridges, rifle, pistol, and then the holster is part of that belt, and it drops way down on the leg. So that's the earliest drop leg, but it's not a Buscadero drop leg. Well,
and also sometimes people misinterpret them to be riding way lower because the waistline is way higher.
And that's the thing. I get told this a lot by people. Oh, you need to drop the belt way down. No, you don't drop the belt way down. They were wearing their belt where belts are worn today on the hips because pants back in the day came up to your navel. So it may look like that belt is way down low on the hips, but in reality, it's not. The pants are way up on the person.
Doug Duke said, Across the Great Divide with Clark Gable. I've never watched the Clark Gable one. I've only watched the one with... I think
I've watched that one.
I've watched the 70s one with Zachariah Coop.
I don't think I've ever watched that one.
Oh, yeah, no, that's right. Doug Duke said Across the Great Divide, but Jolly Jake Lovell said Across the Wide Missouri, I think was the title. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and I don't think
Clark Gable Across the Wide Missouri. That one's kind of a mountain man-ish type.
Right. I'll have to go back and watch that again because I think Across the Wide Missouri is based off of book by the guy that wrote Your Decision. Can't think of his name.
Hardy said, I like Bridges' versions except the mumbling. He talks like he's carrying his bullets in his mouth. There was a few lines he had that were a little better that weren't even from the book. Like where he misses that one round, and it was the cartridges that the trader sold him.
Right.
Bad cartridges. Oh, let's see. Yeah, AR American said, I don't think anyone can measure up to John Wayne as Rooster Cogburn.
No.
Let's see.
There's a reason why he was nominated, and I think he did win an Oscar for that.
Jolly Jake Lovell said 1995's Avenging Angel, worst movie I've ever saw.
I've watched that, and it's not. I didn't think it was that bad.
Is that where James Coburn plays him?
No, it's Tom Berenger. Charlton Heston plays Brigham Young.
Well, who plays Porter Rockwell?
Maybe that is Charlton Heston.
Might be. I can't remember.
Okay, it's been a while since I've seen it. I thought it was an okay movie, but that was one of those nights I told myself I wasn't going to judge the historical accuracy too hard. So I might have to go back and watch that again. But yeah, it wasn't. I didn't think it was a terrible movie.
Earl Shiner says no one should try to remake any of John Wayne's movies.
Agreed.
Kerry Stottlemyre said he did Hollywood rigs and steel reinforced rigs for fast draw stuff. You're talking about John Wayne? I don't remember that. Maybe he did.
Which one was that?
I don't know. Kerry Stottlemyre said he's. I don't remember what he was talking about.
Oh, he was talking about who invented the Buscadero.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
AR American said, always been a Lee Van Cleef Angel Eyes fan. Hey, there's something you can talk about. They finally started getting it right in Italy. To an extent.
Yeah. See, the reason why guns started becoming more historically accurate in movies is because an Italian guy by the last name of Uberti decided that he wanted to shoot these old Civil War guns, but he didn't want to ruin his originals. And so he started making reproductions. And not so much a fistful of dollars, but for a few dollars more is a freaking advertisement for Uberti. When Lee Van Cleef goes up there to that horse, unties that, and all these guns show up down there, those are Uberti guns, and he's advertising for them what they now produce.
And guess what? The West was never the same. We finally got that's one thing a lot of people don't understand about a lot of those 50s Westerns. They didn't necessarily have the right guns because, for one thing, nobody made replicas.
Yeah, and you're not going to, well, I mean, you might find a Henry that's been converted to 4440. I know a person, I'm not going to say their name, but they was telling me and describing to me in detail a gun that had been in their family for 2 or 3 generations. Mm-hmm. And he said it was in 4440. He said that they quit shooting it because they couldn't find black powder cartridges anymore. And I thought Winchester 73, and then he said, yeah, it was a really weird one. He says it didn't have a wood forend, and he said you had to run this little brass tab all the way up to the thing, turn the front of the barrel to load it. And I'm sitting there, and I said, well, what was the date on it? And he said 1860.
Mm-hmm.
And his family had an original Henry that had been in the family, and had been converted to 4440. So,
that's interesting. Now,
there are a few around.
I will say, when I was watching the Tall T the other day, the station master who gets killed with his son in the very first walks out with an engraved 1860 Henry, and the movie's made in 1957. And it's got no loading gate on it.
Yep.
But he's all ready to shoot, and he's all geared up, and the tab's all the way back against the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So right. He wasn't going to do much with it, but my hat was off to, because they didn't get a lot of things right in that movie, and I'd watched it before, but I'd never paid attention. And I was like, to see an original Henry in a 50s Western, it really has to be an original Henry, I think. I don't know of anybody making one, do you?
What's that?
Do you know of anybody that made a replica Henry in the 50s?
No.
Because
it wasn't until Uberti in the 60s or 70s.
All those Westerns, it was 92s. They just take the forearms off, which...
And then paint it gold. Yeah.
Yeah, which I give them credit for that, because at least they attempted it.
Yeah, they do. There's attempting something. The other thing is when they do the Civil War movies, they got 1875 Remingtons. And you got to give them credit for that, because when you're back away from that camera, you're back when the camera's back away from them guns, they look just like a Remington New Model Army.
Mm-hmm.
It's
but
when
they
you're
shoot
close
blanks.
and you see that ejector on the side. But yeah. Ooh, excuse me.
Gunsmith 4570, you might, because I don't think this is possible, but he said Buscadero was seen in the 1870s in Arizona. Picture was in packing iron and was worn cross draw. How do you wear a Buscadero cross draw?
Give me 1 second. I got that book handy.
I mean, I'm not saying he's not telling the truth, but that's strange to me to think of a Buscadero cross draw. What's it do? Sit down in your lap? Let's see. Kent said, pretty sure the Cowboys is my favorite to this day. Yeah, I still hate Bruce Dern. A Few Dollars More is my favorite of the trilogy and best in my humble opinion because of McConey's score. Winchester Model 92s made into Henrys. Yeah, Doug.
Yep.
Hardy said, speaking of Henrys, I just got a Henry original 4440. I feel validated now. Thank you, Duke.
Okay. Who was it that commented on the packing iron? If you can
Buscadero rig.
Give me a page number, it would help.
Yeah. I would like to see that, because that would be, if it was a Buscadero style, unless he's talking about whoever Buscadero was. If you wore that cross draw, would it not be sitting in your lap, basically? Unless it's like a cavalry twist, Buscadero is what he meant. Because I differentiate cross draw between reverse carry, right? Do you?
Right, yeah.
I could see it if that was the case. It was just backwards. You want me to keep rolling through here till we find it, possibly?
Yeah, keep going ahead, because it might be a little while before we get that page.
Cool Hand said there are a lot of Winchesters that had their front stocks removed. Never could figure that one out. Okay, yes, Saboteur. I was going to ask him that too. What do you think about Shane?
Shane is an awesome movie. And I need to go back and watch it. I have not watched it probably in 7 or 8 years.
What do you think about the conchos on that gun belt? Was that historical?
Yeah, there were some gun belts that were fancied up.
No bullet loops, just conchos in a holster.
Yeah, there were some fancy ones back then. Kind of was a preference.
Your gun's too low, Joey. I always keep the grip between the elbow and the wrist.
If you look at those historic photos where that's why you can also judge about where that gun's sitting on a person's body.
Mm-hmm.
Look where the grip of that gun is.
Between the elbow and the wrist.
And it's almost the butt of that gun. The end of that butt of that gun is almost up to the elbow on a lot of those guys that are standing there with their arms down.
Yep.
That tells you right there. That's just about hip height. They weren't wearing it down by their legs.
I will say this about Shane. If you slow it down, his single action army in the last gunfight becomes a Colt 1917 double action. But that's the only way he could shoot that fast, because Alan Ladd hated guns. He couldn't shoot with his eyes open. But I will say this. The gun sound effects, I don't know if they ever got them as good again. And I heard they did that by recording a 357 Magnum inside of a trash can being fired.
Right. There were, they had different ways of recording them. It was funny, as I was out shooting one day, I was shooting with my Walker.
Yeah.
And I forget which Western I was watching. I was watching some Western. When they fire their guns, it was boom, poo, boom, poo. It was bow, bow. And it was what it sounded like when it go off.
Mm-hmm.
I was out there shooting my Walker, and I was up next to a building. I was shooting down into a hole, a fire pit next to a building. And I touched that thing off, and that echo of that shot hitting that building come back is like, bow, bow.
Mm-hmm. And I love it when they do stuff like that, even if it doesn't sound 100% right. It gives you a feeling of power, you know?
Right.
Whereas that's one thing I never cared for in the spaghetti westerns. Their gun sound effects.
And sometimes they sound like a machine gun when it's just a 6-shot gun.
Yeah. Hardy wanted to know, didn't Clint Eastwood have a volcanic rifle in the Fistful of Dollars? Was it original?
Did he have a volcanic or did he have a Henry? Because I thought that was a Henry.
If it was a volcanic, there was a European or an Italian company that made a volcanic like all the way into the early 1900s, just as a copy, because they didn't have it wasn't patented ever over there, and they just I can't remember his name. Ian from Forgotten Weapons has a video on it. They're basically identical copies of the volcanic repeaters, but they're cheaper, so it could have been one of those.
Right.
Yeah, because Brandon Birch said, didn't Clint Eastwood have a volcanic carbine in one of the trilogy movies? The frame looked a little too short and too small to be a Henry.
That's right. That one was very small, wasn't it? I remember that now.
Yeah, Jolly Jake Level said if this or for a few dollars more, he had a volcanic rifle. I almost bet you that's one of those Italian copies that they were making clear through the 1800s.
Tells you how long since I've watched that too. There's a lot of these westerns I haven't watched for a while. Gunsmith 4570. I'm looking through here and I am not seeing anything in the 1870s that looks like a Buscadero.
In the last 1/3 of the book.
I'm in the last 1/3.
He said, loaned out my book. It never came back.
Oh. I'm seeing a lot of regular, Mexican loop holsters in cross-draw configuration. And that's what the Buscadero is based off of, is the Mexican loop holster.
Just got too much leather on the top of it.
It's just that they add a big section so that it hangs lower in that fold.
I used to think that was cool too, but like you said, I tried it on horseback a few times, and I've been in reenactments where a lot of people use them, and if you went out there with a metal detector, you'd find a lot of guns.
Right. Closest thing I can find here is an RT Fraser, and it's 1905. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm in the process of making one of them holsters too. I just need to find the stamp for it. Yeah, I'm in here because this is the now we're getting into the late 1800s, early 1900s holsters, and I'm still not seeing cross draw Buscadero.
I found a few things that'll beat just a good old plain Slim Jim cross draw.
Yeah. You know what? Slim Jims were used for a while too, but as cartridge belts became more popular, the big reason those Mexican loop holsters are getting popular is they will slide over the cartridges on a cartridge belt. Yep. And they use one piece of leather. And they're they're just plain easier to sew. I can sew up one of them faster than I can sew a Slim Jim, because when you sew a Slim Jim, you got to sew the belt loop on. Depending on what belt loop I'm using, and this is the one that I got to ship out tomorrow. If you're using this flat style, I got to sew one thing, and then I can sew the seam. If it's a fold over, which there some people prefer the fold overs, then I got to sew two things before I sew the seam. So these take me about an hour and a half, 2 hours, whereas a Mexican loop holster takes me about an hour. But Mexican loop holster takes twice as long to cut out, so there's trade-offs there.
Yep. Good question up here was, let's see. Jeremy P. wants to know, what is the most accurately depicted cavalry movie? They quit making those about the 60s. Horse soldiers.
I mean, horse soldiers ain't terrible. But I'd have to say Son of the Morning Star.
Yeah. How about Geronimo with Robert Duvall? How's that one?
Yeah, that one's pretty good. Yeah, that one's a really good one too.
Yeah, Kerry Stottlemyre said Arizona Ghost Riders did a video on the bus rig. He did show a picture of low slung rig and a cross draw. Is it possible to see the belt? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he showed Commodore Perry's.
Yeah, I do remember him showing Commodore Perry's on there. And Commodore Perry's would be a cross draw because he had it butt forward on his left side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe that's what everybody's thinking about.
Yeah.
Well, at least a reverse twist.
It was just a drop leg.
And it was way dropped down on his belt. Jolly Jake Level said, speaking of Colt, a double action sub for single action army, White Buffalo Bronson has Colt swing out cylinder guns. They appear a lot in the Young Guns too.
Yeah.
Anytime Hollywood needs somebody to shoot fast, they just give them a double action.
That was the thing, and you will find double actions like Colt Police Positives that have an ejection rod mounted on the side of the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
A 73 single action ejection rod mounted on the side of that barrel to make them look the part.
Yep.
There's a great one in there. It's got, what is it? What's his Kennedy? He was in a lot of Westerns.
George Kennedy
and Frank Sinatra. Dirty Dingus McGee, that's the one. Where he's sitting there shooting the lock off of this box. And he's got a double action, but it's got an ejection thing on the side.
Yeah.
But he might have been using a Colt Lightning, too.
Yeah, I was about to say that could have easily depict a...
Actually, I think it was a Police Positive that they put a ejection rod on.
Well, honestly, double action dropout cylinders, anything past 1889, you're perfectly 100% viable to have them in a Western. Right.
And
you got to get past 1889. Go ahead, sorry.
When he shoots the Mexican guy the last time in Hombre, just before he dies,
mm-hmm.
It's in there, boom, 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 boom. He's got a double action. He's got a modern double action. I think that was an H&R, not an H&R, Ithaca.
Yeah. There's a series out my brother's watching. It's actually one of those that, that they've been doing a lot on inspirational TV or whatever, these littler series that they're doing, Frontier or Western. But now they got one out called Tall Tales of Jim Bridger. And the guy they got to play Jim Bridger, they give him the cut beard with the long and the big flat hat with the turned up, playing him older and younger, looks just like him. And as he's older, he has a Hawken. When he's younger, he has a full-length stock thing, which was kind of cool. But one of my favorites was it was depicting a story told in 1843 that probably wasn't true. It's basically Jim Bridger's making these stories up, telling people, it's kind of cool. It really is realistic.
He was known to do that.
Yeah. So, but at one point in 1843, he reaches in his saddle and he draws out a Patterson. And I was like, all right, I'll buy this a little bit.
Right.
I was like, they did really good, I thought, for what a little bit I saw. Horse soldiers with the 73 Springfield carbines. Yeah, probably.
Were they using 73s?
I
thought I saw them with Sharps.
All I know is they use that carbine in everything. They use the I loved Gary Cooper and Springfield Rifle, where the only Springfield rifle in the movie Springfield Rifle is a gun they're using to emulate an infield. They're all trapdoor carbines.
Right.
But yeah, those, and a lot of people, that's why you got to watch out buying trapdoors today. There's one big channel that thinks he has a really nice original. I'm not going to say his name, but he's actually got a Western costume company cut down. But they literally bought the parts in Hollywood for those things, and they were everywhere in the 50s and 60s. And they
just asked, does it start with a K?
Yeah. And they use them on everything. But the funny thing is, there's an actual market now for Hollywood flintlock trapdoor conversion back to flintlock. They have the flints on them because people are looking for them for the movies they were in, because there was a lot of them in those movies back then.
They're getting more spendy than just the originals.
Oh, no kidding. It's a big collector's piece. But
yeah.
I always say one of my favorite movies is in that Disney version of Johnny Shiloh, where they're right before the Battle of Shiloh in the Civil War, and Brian Keith grabs his rifle, flips the door open, and looks down the bore and says, "It's dirty." But
now, Doug Diggs, I'm going to have to go back and watch Horse Soldiers, because I thought they were showing Sharps.
I haven't seen that in so long.
Right, trapdoors.
Let's see. Brandon Burke said, funny topic for you fellas. What was the worst mock-up movie gun you all have ever seen? I got this one while late for Duke. I remember seeing some corny Western where there was a 2-barreled shotgun grafted into a 4-barrel thing. Yeah, you're thinking of it's not a Western, but that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the Phantasm, where he's got those double-barrel shotguns all fixed together.
The absolute worst one I've seen in a Western. It was a Yul Brynner. I think it was Sabata.
You got it before me. The
Harmonica Henry.
The Harmonica Henry. I can't remember what that thing's called, but there was a whole series of those movies. Oh, what was that called? It was Yul Brynner, a Harmonica Henry blunderbuss.
Yeah.
Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah, what was the name of those shows? It starts with a CH.
I think that one was Sabata.
Sabata. And there's a whole bunch of those
And then Lee
movies.
Van Cleef took over and did one of them. And then they had another guy played another Sabata. Oh, my gosh. They were, wow.
Yeah. John Davis said the real cowboys I've seen in old photos often wear their revolvers in cross draw because that's easier to manage on horseback. Absolutely. And that's one thing they didn't start really getting in Hollywood right until, when would you say they started really nailing that about Lonesome Dove? When they started actually getting that?
What's that? The
cross draw.
Yeah. Lonesome Dove, they had it. Well, yeah, it would have been Lonesome Dove.
I mean, there's a few before that, obviously, but sometimes it's ridiculous for like the seconds.
Reverse draw Buscadero. Not Lee Van Cleef. Lee Martin.
Lee Marvin,
not Martin. Lee Marvin.
Which one does he have it in?
Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Oh yeah. Both of them are backwards because but that's a cavalry twist. That's not necessarily cross draw because he draws with his hands to the inside in that movie.
That's true.
But not saying that wasn't done. Because is that how you were taught to do it with cavalry when you go to draw out of a full flap holster with the hand reversed?
Yeah, you draw it hand reversed. You reach in, you grab it, and then back in the day, they came up and come across their body. Mike Bellevue shows a way to do it, and that's the way I draw. You don't cross your body; you just come straight out, and then you turn it over. But back in the day, they didn't do that because when you get to reading the Army records, a lot of cavalry soldiers that
shot themselves
had abdomen wounds were self-inflicted from drawing that pistol, cocking it, and boom, shoot themselves in the gut. There's the one kid on the Rosebud campaign. He actually took his gun off, threw it on the ground. It went off and shot him through the abdomen, come up and went through his liver.
Have you seen Sacred Ground? Saboteur wants to know. 80s Mountain Man movie.
That's the one with Martin Sheen, I think. And I seen it years ago.
Yep. Carrie Sotomayor's good. He got one for you, Duke.
Oh, yeah.
Hostiles was great. Oh, that's the longest pause I ever heard Duke have on a movie.
Spencer Carbines. 4570 ammo belt.
In 1890.
And the officer, and then what's his name? Christian Bale's character with the 73 single action on a vertical carry on his back.
How about the pommel bags or the saddle bags? That was one thing you had an issue with.
Yeah, and I'd have to go back and look at the saddlebags now, but I'm pretty sure they were the wrong saddlebags. I think they had the 1909 or no 18. See, the 1909, or was it 1904? The 1900 saddlebag was very similar to the one that was predecessor to it. They were just in russet. There was a black one that had 3 straps, but I think that was late 1890s. Yeah, that movie has got stuff. They borrowed stuff from about every time period you could think of.
Let's say it with me, Duke. 1890s. Just take the train. That's the whole problem with the movie. Just get on a train. There's one that goes all the way up there. I know there is.
Oh, my God. And
oh my goodness, Hollywood misses that today so much. 1883, hostile. Just take the train.
You've got a John Wayne Hollywood era being used in a more modern movie when we know better.
Oh, at least I can laugh about it just because it's so ridiculous.
Because the Comanche were not raiding by that point in time.
Yeah, a lot of them big Indian campaigns in 83.
If they had turned that back and made that the 1870s, the late 1870s, you might have sold me on it.
What if they just called it 1868? Then you're get sold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Catlow. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Catlow had some. What's his name? Played Spock.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Uncle Shaw wants. Leonard Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy. Yeah, he has a mare's leg.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one other weird gun in that one too. Give
us your thoughts on the Kevin Costner Western trailer for Horizon. We're going to ride all of us are going to ride this wave on YouTube. I'm just telling you guys right now, if you got YouTube channels, Horizon's going to carry us. Now, historical accuracy, Duke.
Well, from what I've seen on it, and I only watched the trailer once, I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what they're going to be doing, if it's going to be a bunch of short stories, which from what I'm gathering on there, that's kind of the idea I got, is it's going to be talking about different stages in time and 1800s, because that would make sense of why they're all in these different areas. You got the Apaches and then all these other groups. I don't know. There's Henry's in there. I'd have to go back and watch the trailer again.
You mentioned something about uniforms.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the uniforms are all screwy for the soldiers. The hat cords were pretty well gone by the time you're getting into the late 1870s.
But we don't know what time period it's set in exactly per story, so
let's just say with the trailer we've got, it's a little early to know yet, but I know that the soldier uniforms were a little bit squirrely. I was going to pull it up here and look at it on my phone right quick, see what I remember. Yeah, I do remember now. I criticized the uniforms.
Jeremy P. said, I think it's actually neat when I can spot different pop guns used in different movies and point them out. Doug Dukes said, the knock gun in the Alamo.
Yeah.
It's cool, though.
It's cool, but it was kind of squirrely. Let's see. But the one thing it is on this Horizon, it's Kevin Costner. Let's look back at Kevin Costner's work. How much of it has been 100% historically accurate?
Well, Hatfields and McCoys was not bad.
Hatfields and McCoys wasn't bad. Dances with Wolves, there's no way you got a group of Lakota that had never seen or interacted with a white man before. Not in the 1860s. And post-Civil War, they're all trying to kill white men at that point. If you don't believe me, just go ask Casper Collins at Platte River Bridge.
What about Wyatt Earp? That's pretty... He went pretty hardcore on Wyatt Earp.
Until he pulls his coat back and he's got a Buscadero rig on.
That's going to drive you crazy for the rest of your life. Of course, he did. I don't guess he made 1883, per se.
No, he was part of it. So let's see here. They're in Monument Valley. Well, you got a Cattleman Crease hat.
Yep.
That's not accurate. Oh, now it looks like they're up there where they filmed that one John Wayne movie.
What's that?
Oh, geez. Yeah, you got the John Wayne era white hats with things turned up.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that's not good.
She wore a yellow ribbon type?
Yeah, there's another Cattleman's Crease. Well, he does have a gourd canteen. I'll give him that. Let's see here.
I think it's going to be a cultural phenomenon. I don't know if that's right or not, but because most people don't care about what color their hat is. We do, but most people don't.
Well, the arrowhead coming through the wall. Well, it was actually through the window shutter. I don't think it penetrated that far through, but that's actually a pretty accurate example of
an iron arrowhead.
Iron arrowhead that would be available in trade. Lantern's not right. At least I don't think it was right. Not what I seen.
Jolly Jake Lovell said the Wind and the Lion, Crag Rifles, 97 Winchester rifles.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, here we go. All right.
If you freeze frame it, you might be able to put it on the screen.
Yeah, I don't want to hit us with a copyright.
Okay.
All right. Now we got that lunatic. Yeah. So got a modern hat with the hat cords actually aren't bad for Civil War period, and he is wearing a Civil War jacket. But they're not made for that hat. Let's see here. So we got some Apache. Okay, that girl with her hair. No, that's not right.
Hair down?
Yeah, Farrah Fawcett hair. Yeah, the hats are definitely kind of screwy.
Yeah, Hardy, that's exactly what they had to do with 1883. Set it in the 1840s and use muzzleloaders and call it good. Yep.
Yeah, you can
100%.
Even set early 1870s and be all right. Sticking a shotgun barrel through the hole in the ground to breathe through it.
It should be done, Duke. It's possible. It's just not nug.
All right, here we go. Yeah, there it is. One's a little screwy. Screwy hats again. If I remember right, I saw a modern saddle in there too on the last one.
A roper?
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin Costner's riding a roper.
Well, it depends on if it's old Kevin Costner or young, because old Kevin Costner could be set in 1915 for all we know.
I have no idea.
Earl Shanner said, I bought a John Wayne movie. Inside was a batch of black and white pictures from the set of the John Wayne movie. Yeah, me too. It was the Rio Bravo special edition.
And I got one for the Cowboy special edition.
You got the photos in too?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That was cool stuff when they used to do stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. No, it's just there's some screwy things on there. Hats are one of them.
I think the firearms look pretty good, and because I'm not into all the clothing stuff, but for me, the firearms look like they were going to be set right.
It's one of those wait and see.
Yep. Brandon Birch said, evidently the movie I was thinking of starred Bruno Lawrence on YouTube. It's called The Quad Shotgun. Literally cocks all the hammers at once. Costner's version of Wyatt Earp had Earp as a buffalo hunter, a thing he never did. I thought he did.
Yeah, I thought he did do that because that's where him and the Masterson brothers.
I mean, I've been through the museum in Dodge City and seen at least where the reenactors talked about he did, but maybe they were wrong too. I'm not too far from that particular setup. Tom Horn, 1876 Winchester. Well, it did exist. He just didn't use it. Yeah, but Tom Horn that's kind of a hard one to pick on. I'd probably go to bat for Tom Horn in the movie, even though, yeah, like you said, he should have had a Winchester 94. That's the one time they should have used the Winchester 94, and they used the Winchester 1876.
Yeah, he hunted buffalo.
No, Tom Horn.
Oh, Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, I was about to say I thought he did because I seen a lot of stuff about him hunting buffalo
in 1872
with Bat Masterson in Tent City, right outside of Dodge City. At least he was there. Who knows? Maybe he never killed one.
Let's see here. I'm trying to find the. But I don't think he did it for very long.
Yeah, I know that it was. They talk about it being a thing out there. They're pretty big on it out there in Tent City because where they were actually hunting the buffalo was like right where I'm at. which is southeast of Dodge City,
Right.
south of Wichita. This is where the herd was, and this was a big thing. And then it ran over across the Cimarron over there and went on down south. But this is where it started in the early 1870s. Jeremy P. asks, you might know this because I've never seen it. How well did Little Big Man portray the Native American?
It wasn't too terrible far off, but I mean, did a better job than a lot of the other movies had at the time. Because some of the stuff that is in there, they actually, if you go and look at George Bird Grinnell's 2 volumes on the Cheyennes, they talk about a lot of that stuff, and I think that was probably some of the resource material for that, because they did hit some things that are in there, but overall, I mean, Hollywood always portrayed them wrong.
It was that era where they went way overboard the other direction for a little while. Well, yeah. They still do sometimes, but between that and what is the movie where Paul Newman plays Buffalo Bill?
Buffalo Bill?
Is it called Buffalo Bill? I can't remember. Yeah, it was kind of the same thing. It was that era.
Is that Buffalo Bill? Okay. Now you're going to have me look it up again.
Burt Lancaster played Buntline.
Because I'll be honest, my brain has been fried doing all this reading. I think that was Buffalo Bill.
Might have been called Buffalo Bill.
There's been so many Buffalo Bill movies.
Yeah. Jolly Jake Lovell said, maybe I'm being unfair to Earp. I just find him a liar and a goon. There'd be a lot of people who would agree with you. Kind of a horse thief.
Buffalo Bill and the Indians.
Yeah. Doug Duke said, I've been in a real bad mood for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Convert Arrangement said, hi, I'm late. Hi, y'all. It was Buffalo Bill and the Indians, said Louisiana Gray. Yeah. Watched it one time. Never cared to watch it again.
Yeah, and I've never seen that one.
You're not missing anything. It's definitely a one-sided tale. Let's put it that way.
There's only 3 westerns of Paul Newman's I've watched: Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. The one where he played the judge.
The Life and
Roy
Times
Bean.
of Roy Bean.
Yeah,
that was a good one. I love that one.
And then Hombre. Hombre was a good movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Louisiana Gray said, nope, did not enjoy it. Yep, Judge Bean. I loved his holster in Judge Roy Bean. He just shoved a pistol in his pocket, in his back pocket. That was great.
That was a good movie.
When the movie opens up with the line, what you're about to see may not have happened, but if it didn't, it should have. You know you're in for a good movie because they just don't care.
Yeah. I watched that movie out there in Kansas with you guys. That was the first time.
That was good stuff. Fine this man 83 cents for vagrancy and loitering.
Well, it was actually, there was a case where Judge Roy Bean, they brought in a corpse and he was going through it and found 10 cents in one pocket and a pistol in the other. And he says, I find this corpse guilty of concealed carrying a firearm and fine it 10 cents.
Jolly Jake Lovell said, I saw Outlaw Josie Wells in a theater in Derby in 1977. I was 70. In Derby, Kansas? I know where that's at, if that's what you're talking about. Brandon Birch said, what particular firearm would you like to see used in a movie? And imagine there is a scene where the characters go into detail about it.
That one has happened. Crossfire Trail, Evans Repeater.
That's cool. I'm going to go a little more here lately. I wish some people would talk about the Northwest gun, but here lately I want to see a movie where they portray a Lehman rifle correctly. Like, where literally half the people in the West have it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of into the muzzle loaders nowadays.
That's a great scene there in Crossfire Trail. Why do you carry that old Evans, Joe?
Because I can't see too good, and it's got, 17 shots?
It's got 28 shots, and I ain't a very good shot.
Yeah, I ain't a very good
town.
Yeah, They say that 76 Winchester blow a man right out of his boots.
And they've got another one on there too,
And they
the
did.
Remington Keen rifle.
Yep. There's some movies that just go out of their way to be so good with guns.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, Crossfire Trail is really good on that. The Centennial model, 76 they have in there.
There's some movies that are just 310 to Yuma, actually, whether they fit or not. You got the Colt revolving rifle, you got the Schofields, you got the sawed-off shotgun, the Hand of God. You have, there's a lot of cool weaponry. And there's just some movies that I was trying to think of one the other day. I probably talked to you about it, where Mountain Men, where they have everything from cap lock double barrel shotguns to cap lock Hawkins to flintlocks to
Yeah, and there's a great scene, and Garrett and I, we talk about this quite a bit. When Charlton Heston touches off that flintlock in Brian Keith's face, that wasn't scripted.
He's yammering in his ear like this, and he touched that thing off and just blasted him in the face with that.
Because I guarantee you, Brian Keith probably wouldn't have sat there for a second take.
They left it in, and every time I see that, I'm like, that is true realism.
If you've never had a flintlock go off next to your head like that,
it'll do it.
That's a pretty accurate reaction.
And a lot of those old guns, like some of those originals they were using, they got almost 1/8-inch flash holes in them.
And I tell you what, I've had 2 guns back blast in my face. One of them was a rolling block.
Yep, I was there.
And that one was a case head separation. The next one, I was out at Bent's Fort, and we was firing blanks with a Northwest trade gun, and we had to put a fresh flint in because the flint before it went bad, and it was too long. And when it went off, it scraped down. The sparks went in and touched off the pan, but the problem was that long flint hung up at the bottom of the frizzen. And so the frizzen didn't fling all the way open. So that when it went off, it went right straight back into my face. I'll never forget that because I went poof, and I turned my head back right quick. And the supervisor for the black powder there looked at me, and he knew something was up. And we only fired one round. Usually I'd fire that round, and then I'd bring the thing down and run a cleaning patch through it right quick. And I was just standing there holding it, and he's like, uh-oh. He come out there, and he says, what happened? And I told him, I said, the flint was too long and hung it up. And I started wearing, it wasn't really, it was kind of frowned upon to do that at the time of the Park Service, but I started wearing plastic goggles when we go out and do that flintlock demonstration because
you didn't want to get blasted.
And then one day it went down and it hit, and the flint was a little wide, and the corner caught the barrel and broke off and come back and hit me right here.
Ooh, that's not good.
So yeah, I was like, after those 2 things, I wore the plastic eye protection because I wasn't messing with it.
Salvador says, you know what rifle needs to make a movie appearance? A Spencer Mountain rifle. Now, I would assume that that's the Spencer action on a Gimmer barrel, right?
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's what you mean, Spencer Mountain rifle.
That's what I would assume he's talking about. Octagon.
Clarify there, Salvador.
Jared 1860 said, last stand at Sabre River with the Hall carbine, along with Selleck's amazing Colt and Henry. Oregon Outback said 1883 had the pre-production 1885 high wall. Yeah, they did. We're at the first episode. First, I was like, that's a funny looking Sharps. And I remember I texted Plowboy and I said, did you see that Sharps? He said, yeah, it was a high wall. I said, for some reason, my mind wasn't even allowing me. When the name of the show is 1883, my mind is completely shut off to the possibility of high walls.
Right. But on the Spencer Gimmer, one thing to keep in mind, there was a lot of those that were converted, but they became single shots. Because I just seen a Spencer that was on an auction site. It was a Gimmer, and it was chambered in 45-90. So it had been converted to centerfire and then rebored. So at that point, it was a single shot gun.
Cool. So it's kind of a Sharps then. Kerry Sotomayor, I'd like to see a movie on my Shiloh Sharps, 1874 and 45-110. Oh, wait, they did. Everybody wants to know what you think about Last Stand at Sabre River.
That one, actually, I forgot about that one. That one, okay, I've got to say that is actually probably one of the most historically accurate with clothing and guns, because they're using everything that would be post Civil War available, except for the Colt conversions might be a little early, because he's coming back before the Civil War is over. There's not going to be a lot of cartridge conversions at that, so they've kind of pushed that a little early. But he has a Henry, he has open top Colt that was converted. The other guys are using Spencers. His wife has a Blakesley box. One of the guys is using a Sharps. I think one of the other guys has an Enfield. Yeah, it's actually, that one's a pretty good movie.
Oregon Outback said, I had the Hollywood series from Cimarron. Was so disappointed that it only fired 6 shots. Spencer mountain rifle would be accurate for liver eating Johnson, said Jolly Jake Level. Salvador said, I didn't hear what Duke said, but yeah, Gimmer barrel. But when Spencer was making sporters, they made them like that.
That's true. Yeah, there are a few Spencer sporters out there. Is it Old Scout GP has one on YouTube? I'll have to look that up.
Nope, sorry, I didn't see that. Jolly Jake Level said, for Last Stand, the excuse is that a homemade conversion, his father-in-law was a gunsmith.
Yeah, and the homemade conversions on the Colts took place before the factory-made conversions because the whole roll and white patent thing.
Yep.
So that's feasible, yes. But you're not going to start converting them at that time because there's only two readily available, 3 readily available cartridges at that time to convert 44 Henry, which that's possible. It could have been done.
Yeah, pictures of it.
Then the others are the Spencers, the 5650 and 5656. And then there was a 5646 and the 5638, which I don't think the 38 took off the ground, but you want to see the bottleneck case from hell. Look at that 5638. Holy Moses. It comes in, goes in 90 degrees and 90 degrees back out.
Let me find it. I got it right here under cartridge conversions.
Yeah, Gary Stottlemyre, while you're looking that up.
I'm not going to find it. My book's falling apart. But yeah, that got a picture in there of a second model Dragoon that's converted to 44 Henry.
Right. Gary Stottlemyre says that 45 Colt Spencers are finicky. Yes, a friend of mine had one, and the guy, the company that sold it to him, basically said that Chiappa stated that you just had to go buy several different brands of 45 Colt ammunition, and whatever worked, that's what you used. Because that extractor is real finicky on grabbing that case and pulling it all the way out. I've heard nothing but good things about the 5650 Spencers from Chiappa, but 45 Colts, the 45 Spencers, or not Spencer, 45 Schofield, and 4440 are all finicky with them.
Well, it seems like it would have a lot of barrel to get that small.
Yeah, and that's one of the things is that they ain't changing really the dimensions of parts. They're just changing the dimension of the bore and everything. So, yeah, extractor doesn't work real well with them.
Yeah, because that original we have is pretty balanced.
Yeah. But with the 5650s, I've known several people that have the reproductions and never had a complaint on them.
I'd love to try it, but I got to get that conversion block ordered at some point.
Yeah, you probably ought to do that real soon.
Well, even if I did, I got to find 5650 centerfire. That's kind of a rare brass. Father-in-law haircut. John Holt said, was a Spencer used in Unforgiven? Yes.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. Brandon Birch said, I really want to like Last Stand because I love all the firearms. I've watched it multiple times, but his wife constantly nagging him just drives me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, that does make it a little hard to watch, but no, I do like that movie. That one's really good. Trying to think, there's another Tom Selleck one. The Sackett's isn't actually half bad.
Shadow Riders isn't either.
Yeah, Shadow Riders is decent.
They even got some cross draws in the Sackett's.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, those ones aren't too terrible bad.
I think the Sackets is the first time I actually saw somebody running a Winchester. They had a broad enough brim hat. They were catching the cartridges in the top of their hat.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty good. I always thought
That was known to happen.
Yep. What do you think about the cuffs? Are they too early for?
Those are a little early, yeah. Cuffs. The cowboy cuff thing kind of starts coming out late 1880s, 1890s. But you see them portrayed in movies into the 1870s and such. But memory serves me right, I think it was about the mid 1880s that they really started gaining in popularity.
Mm-hmm.
But
well,
I've tried to make cuffs, and I found out that they are a pain in the butt.
Well, I finally, after I loosened the laces on the ones you made for me, they fit me pretty good.
That was one thing on them, is they were so tight on my arm. When I get them lashed down, I could not move my wrist. It's one thing, you're never going to break your wrist in them. They're locked in.
No, but they was eating my wrist up before I let those laces loose. It was bad. It was painful.
Yeah.
But once I let those laces loose, it wasn't bad.
The ones that Ethan got from me.
Those are nice.
Yeah, I just got lucky that they fit him real good. Those are the ones I was hoping would fit me, and they didn't fit me at all. I couldn't get them. I couldn't get it to pass right there on my wrist.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think of Jeremiah Johnson's historical accuracy?
Not that historical accurate.
No.
The Hawkins aren't Hawkins. Hawkins didn't make a 30 caliber that I've ever seen.
38's the smallest I've read.
And 50 caliber Hawkins was actually probably one of the smaller ones you'd have seen out here in the West.
Yep. Jared 1860 said, Duke, I do leather work and have been looking around for a Hope and 1870s style trees. Any recommendations for a place to find some?
Bowden saddle trees and Timberline. Both have, with Bowden, you're going to pay, I think you're up to $800 almost, $750. Because they're specialty tree. And Bowden has what they call a Pony Express, which would be closer to a Mother Hubbard style. They also have McClellans, but they don't have the slots cut in the McClellans for the brass fittings. So you'd have to cut them in. And they have what they call the squaw saddle. I know that word is not considered politically correct anymore, but they do have that style of saddle tree. And I think they've discontinued. Oh, they have a Grimsley style that they still have in production. They've discontinued a lot of their other ones, but they do have a Hope. They have a Santa Fe style, which is very similar to a Hope, but has slots up on the cantle. But yeah, they do have Hopes. And then Timberline has a Hope saddle. They do not have it advertised. You have to contact them and ask them for it, but they do have it. And I think those were right in the $500 to $600 range last I looked. But Bowden is they definitely have them.
Jeremy P. said, how do I convince my kids that Paint Your Wagon is the only musical worth watching? And Jolly Jake Level said the only way to watch Paint Your Wagon is on mute.
There's some parts of Paint Your Wagon that's all right, but I watched that and didn't watch it for very long.
Louisiana Gray said that's when Clint Eastwood is singing, right? Oh, Brandon Burke said, did y'all ever notice that in Jeremiah Johnson, the pistol is a modified break action single shot shotgun? You can see it when he's looking into the horse's eyes.
That would make sense. You could shoot it away from the camera.
Yeah, and they had trouble getting blanks to work in a lot of those guns. A lot of times they like to have a cartridge blank instead of a muzzle loader. And
it just made life easier. Then you could reload it faster.
Yeah. Whether or not, I'll still always say that, yeah, after watching it a few times, you realize how bad off the firearms are for the most part. But it's still a great show. It still gives you that wintry, want us to go read a mountain man history book.
Right. Oh, and back on that question for Jared 1860, the Hope style you can use from Mountain Man era up through the 1870s. It's the amount of leather that's put over it to cover it. that determines the difference. Because the Hopes, you've got a lot of rawhide. The tree is not covered a lot, but by the time you get in 1870s, there's no rawhide visible.
Jolly Jake said, I mean, Lee Marvin can carry a tune, but Eastwood not so much.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, well, you're not a fan of Any Which Way But Loose? Oh, Carrie Sotomayor said, My Fair Lady with Audrey Hepburn, the most gorgeous woman ever. Louisiana Gray said, yeah, I actually like Lee Marvin's Wandering Store.
I was born under a wandering star.
Star. Why did I? What you? Oh, you wrote Store. That wasn't my fault that time.
I can't carry a tune that low. I can carry a tune some days, but not that low.
Not near as good as John Wayne singing in the Comancheros. Almond shines tonight on pretty red. It's hot. It's real hot. Not back here. It's nice and cool.
Or in True Grit, or not True Grit, Rooster Cogburn and the Lady.
Rooster Cogburn and the Lady.
I find her. I find her up her belly and down her back.
Oh. Honky Tonk Man who sold that script to Eastwood. Yeah, that was just sad, is what that thing was.
Throw your arms around this honky tonk man.
Yes, but he got Marty Robbins to finish the song for him there.
Well, they staged it.
And Turn the Page Over by Porter Wagner was in there, or Turn the Pencil Over, yeah, by Porter Wagner. There's a few good ones in there. Yeah, I really like Trapdoor mocked up as Pennsylvania Rifle and Old Yeller. Looks a lot like a Gimmer. You know what? I got to go back and I watched that not too long ago, and I don't think it was mocked up as a flintlock, but it was mocked up as a long barrel cap lock.
Yeah.
And it didn't look bad because he actually had a small horn, and that's actually because when you think Old Yeller, you're surprised that this is Walt Disney, in the 50s and 60s. You'd think, oh, they're thinking Texas. They'd automatically give him a lever action or something, But no, he goes out there with an old muzzleloader, which is what most little farm boys would have had in the 1850s or 60s or 70s even. Just a meat getter gun. Oh, My Rifle, My Pony, and Me is my favorite song in a Western. Oh, that ain't no Cindy.
Get along home, Cindy, Cindy.
Oh.
Get along home, Cindy, Cindy.
Yeah, it looked a lot like a Gimmer. Yeah, it did.
Oh, boy.
What do you think about the Sharps and Savage Sam? Have you ever watched Savage Sam, Duke?
No, I haven't.
Sequel to Old Yeller, where Bud Searcy is packing down to fight the Comanches, and he's got this old Sharps and whatever it's supposed to be, 1880s, 1890s, and Slim Pickens tells him he can't ride with him because his pony will get swayback carrying that rifle. And then in the very end, Bud Searcy makes the what's his name shot? The 1,500-yard shot.
The Billy Dixon shot?
Yeah, it basically makes the Billy Dixon shot with that Sharps on Slim Pickens' shoulder. And when he does it, he rolls over backwards and passes out. All the way home, all he can do is tell Arliss, I run a craftway across Texas and I killed that engine at 3 miles. And then you killed over. You think it's pretty good if you never watched it. Can't carry that rifle. My pony will get swayback.
That's funny. But yeah, so kind of on the Hollywood theme going along with that, I finally did watch Butcher's Crossing not too long ago, and then I decided to watch it again. I finally bought it because it's actually for a reasonable price on Amazon Prime. Still overpriced if you ask me, but more reasonable, better than the $24 that they wanted to buy it when it first came out. I think it was $15 is what I paid for it. That movie is actually not terrible. The big thing I've got a problem with is when he takes that ball-peen hammer and starts smacking them bullets in the case.
And they use it as a beat for the trailer.
I'm sitting there, pop, 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 pop. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, if he was actually full out whacking them, he's going to either blow the mouth of the case out, or he's going to swage them bullets down to the point that they ain't going to fit. Worst case scenario, it's going to go off in his hand because the impact's going to set off the mercury primers.
So the real good question is, what if, for some odd reason, you get out there and you find out, I bought a bunch of precast bullets that were a couple thousands too big?
You're in trouble.
Well, you might be able to use a hammer to get them in.
Yeah. There was a lot of paper patch bullets that were used. And with a paper patch bullet, you got a little bit of leeway. Not much, but a little bit. But a lot of times a lot of those guys are going to be pouring their own bullets. You're not buying ready-made bullets. You're buying a bullet mold made for your gun. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be pouring them out there because you look at a lot of the records of those buffalo hunters. They were buying loose powder. They were buying primers. They were buying loaded bullets because then you'd reuse the cases. And then bar lead. They were buying bar lead. So they buy a crate of bar lead, however many, probably 100 pounds. I'm trying to think here. But they'd buy bar lead. They'd buy powder and primer. And when they're buying bar lead, that tells you they've got a bullet mold that went with the gun. And if you look at the Winchester, the 73 single actions, the 4440s, you could buy a lineman tool that was specifically made for the 73. And if you've seen the Lyman 310 tool loaders, those loaders are pretty similar to what they were back then. Back then, they were all in one unit. Now, the new ones, they've got the screw-in dies. But in front of that, you'd have the bullet mold. And then you'd have, your your deprimer, your primer, your case mouth, expansion tool, your bullet seat. It was all in one unit. So, it's a pair of pliers that are, fairly long. So those did come with a gun, so you could reload out there on the prairie.
Hi, Stephen Sheet said, good evening, Doug Dukes and Garrett. And Brandon Burt said, Lyman ideal loading tool, ?
Yep, they had those out. I don't know when they came out, but you could buy them to go with your 73 lever action. Mm-hmm. Your Winchester 73s.
Jolly Jake Level said the Alamo with Billy Bob is Crockett. Lots of great rifles in that one.
Yeah, that was a good one too. Herschel House, I think, made a lot of the guns for that. If I remember right, he made the guns for the Patriot too.
What always strikes me in that one is his very authentic bag and knife setup with the knife on the bag. I really do like that. A lot of that was good. Doug Duke said, I have a Winchester loader for an 1886 and 4560.
Yep. And I think it was Winchester, and then Lyman got a hold of it later on. But yeah, the Lyman Ideal reloading tool, that was all based off of those that were available in the later 1800s.
Now, I haven't seen Butcher's Crossing, so besides the loading with the hammer, was there anything else that stuck out to you, good or bad? Or
he does have a second model Allen conversion.
Oh, really?
5070. Yep. The shooting scene, when he switches to that rifle and starts shooting, he's shooting the sharps. Mm-hmm. But then he'll go to the reloading, and he's reloading that Allen. And you only get one good glimpse that you can tell that it's a second model Allen. Mm-hmm. But they have him shooting that, and there's one part in there that just kind of, I think they kind of overdid it. But after he starts shooting the sharps, he has a kid run back to camp for a bucket of water on foot after they ride out to this buffalo herd. And then the kid comes back with a bucket, and he says, start cleaning this sharps. And the kid pours water down the sharps barrel, and you just see this huge thing of steam come up there. It's like, if it's that hot, you've done ruined that gun.
It's got red hot, huh?
Yeah.
I find that interesting because in reality, the second Allen conversion was pretty well represented in the northern, not in the southern so much, but in the northern buffalo hunts. And I assume if this is anything like the book, which the book's pretty popular around here because it sets out in Dodge City, I assume he's in the northern herd after
He's in
1873.
Colorado territory because he found a valley when he was trapping for beaver and during the Civil War. And this is set in like the very early days of the buffalo hunt, if I remember right. And so he's riding out there, or no, it was right after the Civil War he went out. So it's set in the early 1870s. But yeah, he's riding out to the Colorado territory, found this valley that nobody else can get to.
That bothers me because if it's set in the early 1870s, all he's got to do is go outside Dodge City. That's the whole reason Dodge City's there.
Right. Yeah, I think if it equal out, it's right around 1874, 75, somewhere in there.
I think the herd's crossed by then.
Yeah, they're talking about, the herds are getting harder and harder to find, and the hides are paper thin, and that's like, no.
But did anything stand out as really great other than using the second Allen conversion?
Well, they actually had buffalo hides there. The skinning process wasn't too bad. The poisoning of parts to keep wolves away, that did happen. More so in the later time period than because that's when wolf pelts were going up in price. And that was the thing. If you're going to be sitting there poisoning wolves with strychnine, you're going to be taking those hides too because they are worth money.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it wasn't a terrible movie. It was better than some Westerns, but not over the top better.
You also have to remember you have a bar that's way higher than everybody else.
The only thing that got me is when they're sitting there skinning that one buffalo, he's just kind of taking his time going around that thing. With the amount of buffalo that guy shot and the time of day he shot him at, everybody would be hands-on going full bore trying to skin them buffalo because this is the first group that he shot into. The wolves would have been all over them come dark. And that was one thing that buffalo hunters, they would only shoot a certain amount at a time because if you shoot more than you can skin in a day, those hides are wasted. Them wolves will tear them hides up to get at the meat, to get at the goodies.
Well, as I recall in the book, he was losing his mind, and so he wasn't caring about the hides anymore. He just wanted to kill buffalo.
Yeah, and that starts to happen too, but this is right out on the first get-go. He shoots
gotcha.
Way too many buffalo because it was I think it was Uncle Dick Wooten that talked about it, setting up a stand, and this is in the late 1830s, early 1840s when he's hunting for Bent's Fort. And so they're hunting primarily for the meat. They're not really hunting so much for the hides. And he talks about going up and they set up a stand and he shot 30 buffalo in a sitting. And so that would have been with muzzle loaders. And they weren't able to skin them all before dark. And the wolves got to a lot of them. So that was known to happen. And so, yeah, if you shot more, the average is about 30 with some of the bigger groups with, they've got multiple skinners involved in it. Yeah, they would all hands on deck. And then there were some guys that, they were specifically shooters. They just go out and shoot. And after they were done shooting, they go back to camp and, okay, you guys go take care of it. But then there were other groups. It's like all hands on deck with the skinning. There's the only reason you get designated as a shooter is because you're a good shot. Otherwise,
that's the job I would want, but they would never give me.
Yeah.
So, just to step back a little bit, one we were talking about the other day was a Cheyenne Autumn.
Yeah.
But had some interesting firearms choices because the Chief is a really good firearms choice. The old Chief has a cut down trapdoor blanket gun, which would be perfectly viable for the time period.
Right.
Was that 1877?
1879.
Yeah, so that would be perfectly viable. But then you have the captain of the military. First of all, his cannons have zero recoil. Zero recoil to the cannons whatsoever. And the next thing was he has a Colt Bisley.
Yep.
1890s Colt Bisley. It's like that's an odd choice because you have to choose that.
Right. And you see that in Nevada Smith too.
Oh,
He
Nevada
starts out
Smith.
with a flintlock double barrel shotgun and rifle side by side.
Yeah.
And then he goes and digs out, I think it's a Remington Colt out of the dirt. Then he goes to a Schofield. And then next thing you know, he's carrying a Colt Bisley.
That's one that you can talk about the historical accuracy if it's not for the gun or whatnot. But Brian Keith's character did bring some historical accuracy to that, especially when he says it's all rusted up and they ain't made ammo for that in 20 years. Well, if we're in the 1880s and that's some obsolete rimfire ammo, maybe.
Maybe. But he's not holding an obsolete open top. He's holding either a 73 or a 75 Remington, one of the two.
And he didn't pick up his brass.
Yeah, pick up that brass.
That was good. Yeah, I love it when you see a movie where they start out with a flintlock or something like that, because a lot of people don't carry into their mind how long, like especially like a poor sodbuster, cap lock, flintlock guns are going to hang on a lot longer than people give them credit for, you know? A lot longer. Into the 1900s for some of them. Because if you're not out there shooting at desperados and you only need one shot to bring in meat. I was reading today about the Lehman rifles, how that they made 6,000 rifles a year from 1834 or 1837 up until 1870. And I was like, well, this must be where it falls off. No, they went up to 8,000 rifles a year from 1870 to 1880. Mm-hmm. And then it started dying off about 1884, but the 1870s were their biggest year. Exclusively muzzle-loaded rifles. I couldn't believe that. I was like, wow, that's just crazy to me. And I guess we just don't account for it because I guess we think of Wild West. Everybody's got to be the sheriff, right?
Right.
Jared 1860 says, has any experience with the Lee Classic reloader kits? I always heard they can't be used to reload lever gun ammo because they only resize the necks.
I don't know, but that sounds more like a die than a loader itself. I know on the Lyman one that I had for my 4440, that thing resized. Because I made the mistake and I stuck a 4440 down in that thing without any lube on it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I lost that case because it took a pair of vice grips to get it broke loose. But the Lee ones, I've not messed with them.
That's the last comment we've had for a while.
Yeah.
Still got 50 people watching.
So yeah, anybody got any questions, comments, concerns, throw them up there. Yeah, we've done a pretty good dive into history here.
Yep. And Hollywood.
The only other Hollywood one, well, the one we haven't touched on, the Sisters Brothers. I've watched that.
You want to like it. You want to like it.
I just cannot.
Can't get past that color, can you?
Joaquin Phoenix is just.
I thought you were going to complain about the brass frame Colts.
There's that too.
You didn't like the spiders in the mouth, and
that movie is just kind of. I mean, I've seen worse, but at least they kept cap locks.
Yeah. Salvador said, anything on Shawnee Scouts?
Not off the top of my head. I know that there were Shawnee that were hired as scouts. But I honestly haven't done much reading on them. I know they're mentioned early on. Delaware are also mentioned. There's several Delaware that are noted, especially in the 1830s and 40s, coming out on the Santa Fe Trail. And I know there's some Shawnee that are mentioned. Trying to think of that one guy's name. I want to say it's Shawnee Jack, but I don't think that's it. But he was mentioned being out there.
Yeah. Cool Hand said some movies shouldn't be made. What happened at the end? Something they did to the water in the river that...
Yeah, they dumped this acid in the river so that they could find the gold, and then they had to put lard over their bodies so they wouldn't get burned. And
Do you know how much acid that would take?
Holy Moses, yeah. And then one guy got too greedy and dumps in too much and kills somebody else. And yeah, not good. But acid and gold don't react that I am of any awareness to.
Kent says, because I'm from and reside in Oregon, I have to ask about Paint Your Wagon, good old Western.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier. It's an all right movie, but I'm just not much into it.
Yeah, it looks like real black powder shooting in that show, Louisiana Gray. Jolly Jake Lovell said it was a Shawnee that kicked. Oh, okay, you can read that. What's it?
Kicked off the House Rebellion in the 1840s.
Okay. I was reading of, not
yeah,
off.
I think that's the guy I'm thinking of, Shawnee Jim.
Yep, he said something Jim. What's your thoughts? We talked about this a little bit. What's your thoughts on Geronimo American Legends?
That's a good movie. That one's actually a pretty decent movie as well. They've got the guns, guns are pretty accurate. Clothing's not terrible. But yeah, that one's pretty decent.
So, okay, wait. Doug Dukes asks, Garrett, what is a good reference on the Lehman trade guns? This is the most infuriating, because we just bought one, an original. They'll be in a few weeks. But it's the most infuriating thing because it's one of literally the most popular guns in the West outside of the Northwest trade gun. I mean, just thousands and thousands and thousands of them, especially in native hands. And there's, as far as I can tell, not one single book dedicated to the Lehman rifles. What I found is if you go online, there's a couple in the Wayback Machine, couple just on Google. There are some articles that are in-depth articles. One I was looking at here is, let me see if I can find it again. Yep, there it is again. One really good in-depth article I've been reading, which is, I think it's an 8-page article. Where'd it go? Where'd you go? Let me dig it up. Had it, and then it disappeared. Oop. Well, I think I lost it. I just now had it, and then I lost it. But
I think Colt's wanting in your door.
He's chained up outside. Can you hear him?
Yeah. I thought it was on my end outside here. Then I realized, no, that's a coon hound.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find it.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. So the best one I found is by Herbert H. Beck. And it's in the, you have to download it, but it's at lancasterhistory.org. And I was talking Turkey Creek 1823 about it. I was like, why in the world are there so many books on Hawkins and no books on Lehmans? It's mentioned in a couple of books. Charles Hanson's Jr.'s books, The Plains Rifle. Do you have that one, Duke? I guess he doesn't know. Charles Hanson's book on the Plains Rifle, not the Hawk in his place in history, but his book on Plains Rifles.
I don't have that one.
Okay, it's mentioned in that. It's mentioned in the Mountain Man book that you don't like because it has a stiletto on the front.
Oh, okay. I'll be right back.
Some info in there, but yeah, there's not any books really written deeply on the Lehman trade guns, and it's kind of sad because there's so many of them. Let's see. The Homesman Saboteur. Well, we can ask Duke when he gets back. I found it depressing. The one thing that bothers me in all various ways, recoil is simulated by the various actors. It's either not enough or way too much. Brandon Birch said, I'm surprised nobody has mentioned Tombstone. I know it's not very accurate, but it's fun to, yeah, it's actually kind of accurate in some ways. Jolly Jake Lovell said the shotgun that blasts through the wall and then sends the cowboy across the alley in open range. Yeah. Yeah, Doug Duke says The Homesman is the only movie I've seen where they buy paper cartridges in packets. Yeah. It's probably pretty good. I just can't get past how depressing it is. Bad Tortilla said, this is true. These guys always have the facts. Garrett just has to give it the glare and it will cough out the information. Okay. There was a couple questions here. Sabater wanted to know what you think of The Homesman.
That one actually is a pretty decent movie. Historical accuracy is there. Definitely there. There was a couple of them, like the one guy's got a the Lyman Plains pistol, which it's not bad, but it just kind of looks like a Hokey Hawken pistol. It just dimensionally doesn't look good. But I mean, it's not terrible. I know other guys that carry them for living history.
Set trigger pistol. Hawken made a set trigger pistol.
No, this one doesn't have a set trigger.
Just a single. Okay.
It's just single. It's the pistol they put out with the Lyman Great Plains rifle.
Gotcha.
And yeah, it's not terrible. It's just that dimensionally it's a little squirrely. So yeah, it was pretty good. Clothing was pretty good. So first time I've seen a woman's pocket represented in the movies. You can see that when she's putting the envelope in her pocket, because women, they didn't have pockets built into their dresses. They were tied around their waist, separate from the dress. A lot of times it would be worn under the dress. She's got it on the outside. So that one, yeah, was pretty good, but it is an extremely depressing movie.
That's what I said. It's not one you want to watch more than once.
Oh, there's that one scene with Hilary Swank. But no, it's it's not a bad movie.
Yeah.
And I think Doug Dukes made about the paper cartridge. Yeah, that's actually represented pretty well because rounds were available in paper skin cartridges.
Uncle Chaw said, I heard they're making a Blood Meridian movie. We'll see how that goes. I want to know if they stick to the book, because I don't think they can. I don't think you can make a Blood Meridian, the historically accurate Blood Meridian.
Yeah, I need to look at that up here.
Okay, just to make sure I can recall, because I sometimes get these mixed up. Blood Meridian's the Espinosas, right?
I got to read up on it here.
I'm pretty sure that's the case. As I recall the book, I get so many books I get them mixed up. As I recall, it's true. I think it's the Espinosas, and it was
scalp hunters along the U.S.-Mexican border from 1850.
Okay, yeah. It's supposed to be like the bloodiest, but it realistically would have been one of the bloodiest stories ever told in the West.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to see how it plays out, but might get to be like the first production of Comanche Moon.
Nobody will ever see.
Yeah, if you've seen Comanche Moon, that has Steven Zahn and what the heck's that other kid's name?
Carl Urban.
That's actually the second time they filmed that. The first time they filmed it, it was deemed to be too gory for television because they were aired as TV miniseries. And so that thing is somewhere in a Hollywood vault. As I said, it was too bloody, too gory.
Well, the story should have been, if they wanted to accurately portray McMurtry's work, but I guess I see where they're coming from. If nobody watches it, it's not going to make any money, right?
Right.
Brandon Birch said, I'm surprised nobody's mentioned Tombstone. No, it's not very accurate, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah, Tombstone's a good one, but yeah, it's I'll just say it's a good movie. The historical accuracy is not really all there.
I'll give it to Turkey Creek Johnson, to old new. Why can't I think of his name? I got his picture right there, and it's
Peter Schrago?
No.
Buck Taylor?
He signed my picture. Buck Taylor. I've met him a couple times. I got an autographed picture of it up there. Yeah, he had his outfit on display that he wore in that movie in Dodge City one day when I met him. And it was a very cool, I mean, the outfit was like spot on. It was like stitch counter spot on.
Yeah, and he was there with Peter Sharako, and Peter Sharako, he's a reenactor, and so he makes good stuff. I imagine that he had a part in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sabador, well, Garrett, time to set up and write that book. The only trouble I have with that is I am not very good at finding nor reading firsthand accounts. That's a lot of work. I'd rather read a book somebody else wrote. Let's see.
There's another question up there. It popped up. I'm going to get ready for that one because it's coming.
Oh, okay. Jolly Jake Level said the shotgun that blasts through the wall and then sends a cowboy across the alley in open range.
Yeah, that's a little overdone.
Jolly Jake Level, that was my favorite scene in the movie. Not very realistic, but exciting to watch. Women who are into historical clothing today keep noting that women's pockets back then were awesome, very capable and customizable, while low profile. Zarsh Taylor's in. He said the book Blood Meridian was insane. That was a crazy read. I mean, I got it from a library once a long time ago. I just didn't remember what. I remember it was the Southwest, and I knew it was bloody. That was about it.
Is that the same guy that wrote No Country for Old Men?
I thought it was based on a true story.
Well, I'm at the author.
Might have been. I don't remember.
Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah. Let's see.
Who the heck? I'm thinking of somebody else. All right.
Okay. Is this the one you're looking for, Atlatl Man? Duke, I've been meaning to ask, can you recommend any books on the history of the U.S. Army infantry during the Plains Wars or the history of the U.S. Dragoons?
Frontier Regulars by Robert Utley.
I knew he was getting ready for that one.
1866 to 1891. That covers everything, cavalry, infantry. Regular Army O by Doug McChristian, and this book is in depth. McChristian was a heck of a historian and author. So if we get back past the notes, it is get past the appendices. 597 pages, and that's without the extra 200 some pages of extra appendices and such. This basically what he tries to do. Oh, and I forgot this one had somebody bought it at Little Bighorn before it got to me. Is he follows the life of a soldier, basically from enlistment until the enlistment would expire after 5 years. So he goes through. So I'll just kind of go over like the chapters. First chapters, on enlistment. The recruiting depot where they would be sent to be trained, basically the basic training. Then they'd be sent out west, the regiments and everything. Goes over officers, non-coms, forts and garrison routine, material aspects of Army life, medicine, hygiene, and sanitation, domestic side, recreation, pastimes, the seamy side of enlisted life, desertion, preparing for field service, life in the field, regulars and red men. So that's the title of the chapter. What combat was, and then talks about the end of the enlistment. This one is the most in-depth. If you want one on just cavalry, 40 miles a day on beans and hay, well, it's on all of it, but kind of focuses more towards cav. And then to go with the first one by Utley is Frontiersman in Blue. Unfortunately, the desk cover is gone off this one. And Frontiersman in Blue is the first of 2 volumes, and this is the second of the 2 volumes. And then we have The Frontier Army and the Settlement of the West. It's by Michael Tate. Another good one that goes over a lot of that stuff as well, the same stuff. And I'll be right back. I got to grab one more book.
Kent says, Last of the Mohicans or Well, if you're talking about the original Last of the Mohicans or the movie with Randolph Scott, I would say Last of the Mohicans or Drums Along the Mohawk. If you were talking about Last of the Mohicans, Daniel Day-Lewis, I would say Last of the Mohicans or The Patriot. Just my opinion. We'll see what Duke says when he gets back. Question. The movie Butcher's Crossing, they reload rifle cartridges by pounding lead in the brass with small ball and big hammer. I did not see lube grooves on the lead. See the next post for the end of. Yeah, we already talked about that. Last of the Dog Man, Bone Tomahawk was also brutal.
All right. So the last one for specifically on the Dragoons is From Everglade to Canyon and the 2nd United States Cavalry. This was a history book. This history book was written in 1875 by a guy that was in the 2nd United States Cavalry. Now, I know that's not saying you asked about Dragoons. 2nd United States Cavalry came about in 1861. Prior to 1861, the 2nd U.S. Cavalry was the 2nd United States Dragoons. And so this goes back all the way back to 1836. So we'll just add a little extra history in here. In 1861, the Army basically redesignated all mounted units as the U.S. Cavalry. So the 1st and 2nd Dragoons became the 1st and 2nd United States Cavalry. The United States Mounted Rifles became the 3rd U.S. Cavalry. The 1st and 2nd U.S. Cavalry that had come about in 1855 became the 4th and 5th United States Cavalry. The 6th U.S. Cavalry, if I remember right, come about the same time. The 7th came in 1866. I'm having a brain fart here. 7th Cavalry came about after the Civil War. And then the other cavalry units were added in as needed after that. I don't remember when the 8th came in. 9th and 10th Cavalry came in right around late 1860s. There was only 10 cavalry units there for a lot of the Indian Wars. I got to look it up here right quick. Let's see. Now my dogs can hear your dog.
Yeah, I'm wondering if somebody's going to go let him in. He's been out for quite a while.
July 28th, 1866 is when the 7th Cav was created. The 8th was also created in 1866. And then the 9th. Okay, yeah. So the 7th. See, there's a 6th. The 6th was created in 1861. That's right. Yep. So the 6th was created when they redesignated everything. And then in 1866, they added the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. So there's our little extra added history for tonight.
Kent wanted to know in the form of a question, Last of the Mohicans or... So like when I said, I say Last of the Mohicans or The Patriot. What do you think?
Patriot was pretty good. Last of the Mohicans wasn't bad.
Yeah.
The gear and equipment was pretty accurate in that.
I think the way it's worded is he's looking for another movie along the same lines, but maybe up to the quality.
I'd say the Patriot's pretty close to that.
Yeah.
The one thing that gets me in Last of the Mohicans is Daniel Day-Lewis with 2 long rifles holding them and shooting them from the hip and hitting something.
There, we fixed Colt. He's happy now. Let him in the house. Bone Tomahawk was brutal. Let's see. Off topic, but my military heritage 1777 musket will be here Friday, and I already got my rocks and shot from Track of the Wolf. I only have the Woods family to blame, LOL. Well, just bear in mind when you get it, after you drill your touch hole, that barrel is going to be loaded, even if you can't see it, with cutting oil and cuttings. So get that barrel off and take some acetone down it. That's what I do, and get that cutting oil out of there, or you will have troubles to no end. Get that cutting oil out of there. A lot of people forget about it, and then try to load powder on it and shoot it, and then my gun doesn't work.
Or if you go really slow, just get you a hand crank drill and then just go real slow, and you don't have to worry about the cutting oil.
Well, the cutting oil is already in the gun when it comes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They pack an oil in there, and it may not be cutting oil. I call it cutting oil because there's a thick grease down in there. We got to get it out. Other than that, keep your flint sharp. You should be good to go. Let's see. Brandon Birch said, I bet I can give Duke an aneurysm for thread counting. Have you all ever seen Walking Thunder with John Denver?
No, I haven't.
Me neither.
I turned it on one night and it lasted all of about 5 minutes.
What's it even based on around?
I have no idea. I don't even remember.
Hiram Hillbilly said, I want to reload 38 long Colt heel projectiles, but the heel projectiles do not have lube grooves. Is it okay to load lubed wads in the case without lube grooves on the projectile, 31 38 caliber? You can do that if you're loading a... I'm sorry. Go ahead, Duke.
Oh, I was just going to say the same thing. You can do it, but you don't want to leave them loaded a long time.
Yeah.
I would put a vegetable fiber wad between the powder and the lube.
That bullet is designed to be lubed on the outside.
Yeah.
Of the bullet itself, like a 22.
You're going to have problems no matter how you do it.
Mm-hmm. If you lube it on the outside, it gets dirt and stuff stuck to it. It's just part of it. But that's how it was meant to be done, was lubed on the outside of the bullet surface.
Yep. You can dip them in beeswax. That would be a good start.
Carrie Sotomayor said, The Last of the Mohicans was a great movie, but it is a car chase on foot. Let's see. Yeah, he was saying Cormac McCarthy wrote Blood Meridian and No Country for Old Men.
Right.
Blood Meridian's loosely based on something, though. I remember that much. I remember it was something about Tennessee. Some people from Tennessee or something. It's been a long time ago.
I'm going to jump ahead here just a little bit. And Doug Dukes put up there, Cry Comanche is a good book on the second Cav. Yeah, Doug, but that is what became the fifth U.S. Cav. So, because the United States Cavalry was officially designated 1855. And then 1861, the first and second became the fourth and fifth. And that's why the 5th Cavalry is in Texas and Civil War years, post-Civil War years.
So, going through here, Gray Pilgrim said, hey, guys. Gray Pilgrim said, movies ain't history. Reality is not photogenic. Blood is still blood.
Some truth to that.
Carrie Sotomayor said, he's talking about something else there. Doug Duke said, Doug McChristian collection at Fort Concho in Texas.
Mm-hmm. And the McDermott files, we've got copies of the McDermott files at Fort Laramie. That is a huge file, and unfortunately is on such an old, outdated computer system now, you have to have a special thing to read it. But I've went through the McDermott file, and it's like, holy Moses, that guy had a lot.
Yeah.
He had the names of just about every person known that died at Fort Laramie. And on Memorial Day last year when we was doing the services, they had me read off the names of the known soldiers that died for the Memorial Day service. 20 minutes. That's what it took me to read off all those names.
Yeah. Let's see. They like Last of the Dog Men.
Yeah, that movie was all right, but wasn't one of my favorites.
Brandon Birch said, I forgot. That's something completely off topic. Weren't you fellows going to do a live stream about Baldwin trials? I thought I saw a notification. Yeah, we started to. I set it up, and I had permission to even use the video because it was open court records, and I studied it. And then I realized there's no way I could get away with live streaming it because they were handling guns left and right in the courtroom. As soon as I put that up, we'll for sure get whacked with something. And so and everybody was like, well, everybody else put it up. Yeah, everybody else ain't me. So we just decided to cancel at the last minute. Besides, I'm kind of tired of Alec Baldwin stuff, to be quite honest.
Yeah, well, they did find the gal guilty of manslaughter.
Yeah.
Today, I think it was.
That's what I heard. Let's see. Hiram Hillbilly said maybe it's been brought up, but Ted Turner's Into the West is the best I've seen. Out Loud Man said most excellent, Duke. Much obliged. I believe that was for the.
Yeah.
Doug Duke said Cry Comanche is also a good book on Second Cav.
Yeah, that's the one I jumped ahead on earlier.
Yeah.
Because that's on the what'll become the 5th Cav.
Sabador said there needs to be a series on the Rishas. That'd be interesting. Dude.
There does need to be a series on the Rishas. I'm planning on doing a podcast on them. So as soon as I get done with Red Cloud's War, I'm going to start doing some on some other folks, and the Rishas are one of them.
Earl Shiner said, I clean all my muzzleloader and my friend's muzzleloaders. Well, I wish you were my friend. Kent said, The Last of the Dogmen is still in my VHS case, LOL. Jolly Jake Level said, John Joe Glanton and the Glanton gang are the historical inspirations of Blood Meridian. That's what it was. I remember it was something like that. I got the book several years ago at the library. I was actually reading a bunch of Larry McMurtry stuff at the time, and I thought I'll jump in and get that one too. And as I recall, it was an eye-opener. Oregon Outback said, Thel Reed was in the courtroom today. He is looking old beyond his years. Sad. Outlaw Man said, I just started watching Centennial. What are y'all thoughts on it? Go, Duke.
That's pretty decent. The historical it's a fiction, and it's based on history, so it's historical fiction. And it's based off of things that actually happened, here in Colorado. Zent is loosely based on Bent. Pasquinel is loosely based on Bent. Alexander McKeague is loosely based on. They're all loosely based on characters. He kind of took actual characters that were around and
sounds like they're all loosely based on Bent.
Yeah. Well, they're loosely based on actual people that were in the area. So McKeague was trapper, went and traded. Pasquinel was a trapper mostly, a little bit of trading. But yeah, it was a pretty decent movie. Definitely was better on the clothing and the firearms in it, but it's also got its 1970s feel to it. Yeah, it wasn't bad at all. You see a lot of Thompson Center Hawkins in it.
Kind of a thing of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it was at that time and that time period that the rendezvous thing was really starting to get going. And when you go to that rendezvous scene, it's like, yeah, that's definitely 1970s, 1980s rendezvous.
Yeah. I was just thinking, is there, you may know this and I don't, an actual good film adaptation of John Coulter? Because I don't think I've seen the Run done 1,000 times in different movies, but it's never The Run.
No, I cannot remember it being depicted accurately.
Could they even make a John Coulter movie correctly?
I doubt it. Yeah, it's like in Return to Lonesome Dove.
Yep, that's one.
A movie that should never
been made. It doesn't exist. It's not canon. John Voight is not Call.
Out of all the other guys that played Call, he wasn't bad.
He's he might be number 4. Because Tommy Lee Jones is Call. Can't remove it. James Garner might make Call number 2 in a weird way. Carl Urban make Call number 3.
I'd swap those two.
Oh, you think James Garner or Carl Urban's better than James Garner?
Yeah.
It could be. Either way you look at it, John Voight's at the bottom.
No, I put him ahead of the guy in Dead Man's Walk.
Oh, I completely forgot about Dead Man's Walk. Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. So he's second to bottom.
Put him ahead of that, and the guy, what is his name, Arquette? He's definitely at the bottom for playing Gus.
Oh, from Dead Man's Walk? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't even remember who it was. I just remember there's only 2 guesses.
3.
But there's only 2 that really exist. Steve Zahn and Robert Duvall.
Yeah, it was David Arquette. No.
Jolly Jake Levels. Can James Garner be Captain Call? In a weird way, yes.
He does it not bad.
Yeah, in a weird way, because he's Call without Gus. And Call without Gus is just a sad old man.
And it's one of those, if John Voight had played Call first instead of Tommy Lee Jones,
maybe, yeah.
Could have bought it. I really could have bought it. But Tommy Lee Jones set the standard for Call.
Yeah. That stoicism that I didn't ever see. I saw John Voight try to do it. He tried, just like Rooster Cogburn, he tried to play Tommy Lee Jones, and it didn't work.
Yeah, and Steve Zahn plays Tommy Lee Jones pretty good, because Tommy Lee Jones in Lonesome Dove laughs. He laughs at some things. He has a sense of humor. Carl Urban laughs in Comanche Moon. He has a sense of humor.
I can see the development from Carl Urban to Tommy Lee Jones.
By the time you get to
James Garner,
Carl's getting pretty old, and he's getting to that point in life where you don't have a lot of humor. And to be honest with you, that one was a pretty depressing movie all the way around.
Well, have you ever noticed that if you look at it, McMurtry never let Call win anything?
No.
Ever. And John Voight wins, and that just doesn't fit the character.
Yep.
So I don't feel like that. That's one of the reasons. It's like it's got a happy ending. You cannot have a happy ending in one of those stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only happy ending in Lonesome Dove is that they start the ranch. But the thing of it is, the ranch goes to hell.
Newt gets killed by a horse.
By the horse that Call gave him.
Yep, before Call even gets back to Texas.
And I'm going to go ahead and say it, Bings, we're on my channel, and Garrett can edit it for his channel if he wants.
Plug your ears.
Hellbitch kills, kills Newt.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not happy.
None of them. Think about it. Dead Man's
Walk.
Bigfoot dies, which he didn't die.
Bigfoot Wallace gets killed. And, boy, when they
Moon.
the guy to play Bigfoot Wallace, Keith Carradine.
Yeah, Keith Carradine.
Perfect fit.
Comanche Moon, they don't win. Blue Duck gets away.
And
I just always
Beth
felt
loses Clara.
Yep. And Call gets his heel shot off of his boot.
Yeah, that's true.
That I always felt like there was so much room between Comanche Moon and Lonesome Dove for another story, but we'll never get it, I guess. But I always felt like there was room for one more in there.
But the thing was that there wasn't much that went on. They go to ranching.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of stories about going to Mexico and him fighting the Mexicans, and we never hear about that.
That's true. But
what's his name? What is his name? Why can I not think of his name? The Mexican in the first one. He dies randomly, and it makes Gus sad. They steal his horses.
Oh,
why can I not?
See, when you say the first one, I thought you meant in
yeah, not in chronological order. The true first one.
You would have to ask Pedro Flores.
Pedro Flores. There's a room for a story between Call and Pedro Flores there. There really is. It just doesn't. I don't know.
I don't think you can get the same epic story as what you got from the rest of them.
Yeah. But in Lonesome Dove, Gus dies, and they start a ranch, and Call loses it, and Newt dies. And then what does Call get accomplished in Streets of Laredo? He gets ambushed, gets his leg cut off, and then watches Joey kill the woman.
But at the end, the bad guy doesn't survive. Well, I guess at the end of Lonesome
Well,
Dove.
yeah, the bad guy got killed, but it definitely wasn't because of anything Call did.
Yeah, the main bad guys get killed at the end of all of them, except for Dead Man's Walk. Well,
Civilization does everything that you would expect Call to do.
Yeah,
in all of them.
But yeah, no, there definitely was room for the movie that happens between Dead Man's Walk and Lonesome Dove, but Return to Lonesome Dove wasn't it.
No. Oh, you mean between Lonesome Dove and Streets of Laredo?
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, because there's a lot of story there can be told.
Because Return to Lonesome Dove is just Lonesome Dove with horses.
Well, yeah, Larry McMurtry didn't write that one, right?
Yeah. No,
yeah, it's not canon.
Oh, okay. We drove a cattle herd to Montana. Now I'm going to go back and we're going to drive a horse herd to Montana.
I read somewhere that the producers on that show said the cattle were the most expensive part of the first show. And so one of them said, can't we have them drive goats to Montana? And one of the other guys says, how about we just have a stampede? They lose the cattle. And Call says, oh, well, let's go to Montana.
So what they did for the cattle on that is the reason they're able to pull it off is they found these little, what do they call them? The Corrienas, the little roping cows, the little Mexican Corrienas.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they were able to afford to do that. And then there's one scene when they're driving through the blizzard. Well, they were just happened to be driving through Montana with all the actors, all the cattle, all the horses, everything. And it starts snowing, and the director's like, we should film in this. Goes up to this rancher's house and says, hey, if we give you some money, can we film like right now? And he's like, go for it.
Doug Duke said he choked on a pepper.
Yeah.
I would have to say, I want to hear someday, if we ever get Doug Dukes on this show, I want to hear his take on, of all of them, Streets of Laredo. Because I feel like he ought to have a lot to say about Streets of Laredo. And Streets of Laredo, especially the book. The book is, it's just so good. I feel a lot of it's not right, but I want to see what Doug Dukes has to say about that.
Right.
Yeah, Doug Dukes never saw P.I. getting Lorena. Yeah, no. It must have been because he forgot about his toenails. They were way down there in his socks.
Sam Shepard didn't play P.I. very good. He played P.I. too smart.
Yeah, P.I. got an IQ raise, didn't he?
Yeah, by a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like the story was good in that regard, but then again, I can't see who played P.I. first. What's his name?
Parker. Parker's his last name.
I have such a hard time seeing that P.I. getting it done against
played
Joey.
News Garver or News.
Yeah,
News,
fried green tomatoes.
What the hell is his name? And Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, the guy that was named News.
Yeah,
P.I.
Why can't I'm having such a hard time with the names.
I can't think of his name. He did a few westerns. But that's the one great scene in Return to Lonesome Dove when he shoots Jasper Fan.
Yeah, that
you hit him. Well, I wasn't trying to hit anybody. I just aimed a little high.
that was good. Yeah, Jasper.
That was the best scene in that movie.
The tougher they are, the further up the river they come, the tougher they are. Newts come from a cabin way past the last cabin on the river. Oh, yeah, that was Jasper was all right. Why can I not think of the other one's name? The other young one from the first one. From Dish. No, yeah, Dish. One of Dish's lines. I don't remember if it was in the show or in the book. Newt's a good hand, but he ain't no top hand. I'm a top hand. I pointed this herd all the way here from Texas. And I've thought about that a lot, and I thought, how many quote-unquote cowboys I know that think that they're the top hand? Newt ain't no top hand. He's a good hand. I'm a
Timothy
top hand.
Scott was the name of the actor for P.I.
I can't see that actor's version of P.I. getting it done against Joey with the shotgun.
Well, maybe if he just aimed a little high.
Evidently. I mean, I almost feel like P.I. is such a different character by the time you get there, especially in the books. It's like you don't get the feeling in the first story that he's the one that Call's going to lean on for the rest of his life. And by the time you get to Streets of Laredo, he's the only one left that Call leans on. And you're like, I don't feel that. Yeah, Tim Scott, Doug Duke said, yeah, Doug, I want to get your thoughts someday on Streets of Laredo.
But I'm going to have a gripe with Google.
What's your gripe with Google?
Because I just typed in Lonesome Dove cast on Google. They don't have guests listed on there at all on the first 9, 12.
It's supposed to be taken for granted.
It's Tommy Lee Jones, Diane Lane, Ricky Schroeder, Timothy Scott, Chris Cooper, Robert Ulrich, Danny Glover, Angelica Houston, Barry Corbin, Frederick Forrest, D.B. Sweeney, and William Sanderson.
Louisiana Gray said, yeah, well, maybe Lori figured if I'm going to have to put up with him, I better teach him some common sense. Yeah, in the book, it was more along the lines of she'd had everybody that was bright and intelligent already. She wanted to kind of run the show. So she picked the one she could run.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Jake said, if you don't know who played Gus, you ain't from this galaxy.
Well, they got him way down on the bottom of the list. It's like, what are you people doing?
Okay, so in your mind, Duke, who makes the show? Robert Duvall or Tommy Lee Jones?
I don't think you could have one without the other.
I think you're right.
You wouldn't have a story if you didn't have one without the other.
I've always pictured myself more of a Gus, though. I do all the talking. You do too much work for both of us, so I got to do the talking for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, you can't cut Call out of it and have a good movie. You can't cut Gus out of it and have a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you cut Gus out of it, you got Culpeper Cattle Company.
They're too serious.
Yeah. If you cut Call out of it,
you have the Over the Hill Gang.
Pretty much.
We ain't go. If you cut Call out of it, there ain't no way we're going to Montana. You go ahead and go on up there, fight all the Indians, and get us a cabin along. Me and Jake will be along with a herd.
Herd of horrors, maybe.
Oh, I think we're getting late in the day.
Yeah, I think we got about 8 minutes.
This was a fun chat, though.
Yeah, and we've been staying right about 50 all the way through it.
Yep. Lonesome Dove was supposed to have a sequel, Cool Hand. It was Streets of Laredo and not Lonesome Dove Part 2.
So there's 4 books. There's Dead Man's Walk, Comanche Moon, Lonesome Dove, and Streets of Laredo. That was it. But there's one thing I will say on there. And Larry McMurtry kind of stole this idea. And I think it was a joke going around back then.
Because it's in every movie.
July Johnson and Roscoe Brown.
They're in what is that? Bandoleros with Jimmy Stewart.
Watch Bandolero with Jimmy Stewart. It's Sheriff July Johnson. And I don't think it's Roscoe Brown, but it's Roscoe as the deputy.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's another book I was reading called The Buffalo Runners. Well, there's a July Johnson and a Roscoe Brown in that. And then there was another Western I picked up not too long ago that was from the 1950s. And what do you know? July Johnson and Roscoe Brown.
Well, you do realize that was originally written as a John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart, Henry Fonda vehicle, right? So that was the plan originally when they wrote it, but the guys was all too old by the time it was ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, could you imagine John Wayne as Captain Call and Henry?
Actually, I can't imagine him. If you read the book, I see it in there. I can't imagine him and the portrayal that Tommy Lee Jones put on. I can see Henry Fonda as Jake.
I can see Henry Fonda as Gus.
Jake.
No, I'd say Gus.
No, he was originally meant to play Jake, and Jimmy Stewart was meant to play Gus.
Well, I could see Jimmy Stewart as Gus. I could definitely.
Yep. I can't see Jimmy Stewart hanging Henry Fonda though. Oh.
Now you boys there, you quit digging when you get to China. You'll know when you're there. All men will all have pigtails.
It's a motto. Do the motto. It's Jimmy Stewart. says itself. That line was written for him.
Well, it's a motto. It just says itself. You know, and
For all you know, you could be. You got to put your hand on your hip. For all you know, you could be inviting people to rob us.
For all you know, Pilgrim, you could be inviting people to rob
Breath.
us.
You got to have a breath between people and rob us. People to rob us. The motto, it says itself. Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure Jimmy Stewart would cheat at the cards. I don't know if it would have been written quite that way if it had been made at the time. I really don't. Oh.
Well, now, just because you're with Jake, that doesn't mean you can't sell me a poke. I just ruined Garrett's childhood.
You put Jimmy Stewart in such a weird way there.
I won't do my other Jimmy Stewart impression.
Oh, there's. Can you imagine that Jimmy Stewart was ever too young and pretty and couldn't work on a riverboat no more? Anyway, moving along. Yeah,
Well,
Duke's.
if that's the case, I bet your wife down there in Mexico is getting pretty rusty.
Call him, stay here. Call do the only education he's gonna get is listen to me talk. Gus is written for Jimmy Stewart. He is written for Jimmy Stewart. When I hear his voice and you doing it, it's written for Jimmy Stewart. 100%.
Oh man.
Oh, are you about ready to call it? We got about 4
we're gonna
minutes.
have to, or this is gonna
2.5 hours. I don't know. I've had more fun with this chat than I've had in a long time.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're starting to lose people. I guess my Jimmy Stewart impression went that good.
Dude, Jimmy Stewart at the river when Blue Duck's coming down the hill. Silver conchos. Like
oh God. Now you put me on the spot. I ain't gonna be able to pull it off. Go ahead and have a drink. I hope you like it cold. I ain't got time to warm it up for you.
I like it wet. Now, okay. If you got all those characters, Charles Bronson's got to play Blue Duck. I like it wet.
And you know what? He would play dadgum good Blue Duck.
He would, too.
I could have seen him playing Blue Duck.
Oh. Earl Shiner said he thought he had Jimmy Stewart on in the John Wayne movie on. Yeah, one thing Duke can do, he can do impressions. Oh. You ain't get nothing done. You running off to town every 5 minutes. The thing about that is it's written by somebody who knows cattlemen, because those are two very distinct cattlemen that exist in every culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know it too, don't you?
Yep.
Those are two very, very existing cattlemen. Of course, they're really not cattlemen. They're really just they rent horses.
Don't rent pigs.
This is where we find out whether or not I can't say Gus stuff anymore because now it's got Jimmy Stewart wants to know if he was meant to be a cowboy or not. We're having fun with this one, guys.
Oh, now here's that $2 you wanted to borrow. I don't want it said that I'd refuse a loan to a friend.
Oh my goodness. Oh. Can you picture Jimmy Stewart sitting in the Milk River? Up in watching. Oh, give us the river crossing when he first comes back with Lori.
Oh God, now I can't even remember that line.
I can't remember either. Oh, good stuff, boys. Doug Duke says. Oh, good stuff, guys. All right, we're gonna have to go. We got 30 seconds to 2.5 hours.
Oh man.
Oh, Jolly Jake level bad. Alexander Craig said, I always love watching you guys stream together. I learn something and laugh at the same time. Oh, my goodness. Oh, anyway. You can shut her down whenever you're ready.
Yeah, we'll run it here another minute or two. But
I'm just sitting here.
My good friend Caroline, she's a Jimmy Stewart fan. And, well, I got to doing that impression up there all the time at Fort Laramie when she was around. Even made a joke about it that I was going to do a canon program out there and imitating Jimmy Stewart while I did it. I got told I'd be shot.
Oregon Outback said, you guys watch a lot of movies. It's the culture, man.
Yeah.
I just thought of a few others. I'll never be able to see it again. Oh,
man. Oh, geez. All right. Yeah,
we drank too much Coca-Cola tonight.
Oh, we're having way too much fun.
Oh,
Lord. I always thought you'd have more sense than to turn your back on a Kiowa mare.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, it was so written for him. It was.
Oh, yeah. That
would have been better than the Cheyenne Social Club.
Now, Harvey, that's not what a good Republican businessman would do.
We ain't Republicans. Mom and Pop were Democrat. I can't do the voices. I just remember it now. I just remember it in weird voices now.
You know, Jolly Jake, you're just about right with that one. With AI, we could get that.
Yeah. It would kind of ruin it because it would turn it into a little more of a comedy, because I don't know if John Wayne's call could live up to Jimmy Stewart's Gus.
Oh, Lord.
Haven't you ever wanted to go chase him? To eat him? No, just to chase him. Do that, we'll see. Well, it's all good.
You don't want to chase buffalo.
It's all part of God's plan that you are, P.I. Oh.
Well, Alpine Gulch, we appreciate that $2 super sticker.
Yes, thank you. Oh.
My Lord.
That was the most fun I've had on a chat in years.
Yeah, that was good. Then we got to figure out who would play Lorena in that. I'm all for Raquel Welch.
Yeah. Oh, what's her name from? Yeah, sure.
Oh, shoot.
Now they want you to do Party 5.
Can I load my gun now, Andy? Can I load my gun?
Now they want to know who would have played P.I.
Oh, God.
Oh, I don't know. P.I.'s kind of hard to cast in that era.
I'd say either, what's that one guy that plays the Indian agent and McClintock?
Oh, you think that you could get, it's not Strother Martin.
Yeah, Strother Martin, yeah.
Is it Strother Martin? Yeah.
Yeah.
He could have played P.I.
Yeah, him or, oh gosh, he played in some other movies. He's just kind of a lesser known character. He was with Strother Martin in The Wild Bunch. Him and Strother Martin were paired up.
Oh, that younger kid, the blonde haired.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Can't think of what his name is.
The one that's arguing whether or not he got him with that Springfield or the.
Yeah. I can't think of his name. And he was in Hang 'em High, too.
Yep. Henry Dean Stanton was actually in, not Comanche Moon, Dead Man's Walk. So yeah, he was already in one of them.
Now I got to figure out that guy's name.
Nope, they don't make him like Jimmy anymore.
Justice McQueen.
Justice McQueen. I can see who he is, but I didn't know his name.
Yeah, he would be a good PI. That fella right there.
Yep.
He even looks PI. All right. Well, we're going to have to shut this down.
Oh, that's no joke. You guys don't get him started on being a Scotsman either.
Wait, Cool Hand, I think you're right. LQ Jones. I don't know why they've got Justice McQueen on there. LQ Jones. Oh, Justice McQueen is his actual name. Okay.
See ya, Sabater.
All right, yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to shut this down or we're never going to get done with it. So, yeah, I want to thank everybody for joining on here. What's 11 Bang Bang got coming up?
I have no idea. I'm not running her for the time being.
All right, yeah, you're taking a break. Yeah. So, Tales of the Trails in 2 weeks. Can't guarantee what we'll have. Like I said, I'm working like devil on this podcast and things. I'm doing research for that. I don't have a lot of time to do research for the chat here.
Whatever it is, I hope Jimmy Stewart makes an appearance.
Yeah, the thing with that is, it's going to be hard to do both of them at the same time, but we'll come up with something. Might talk about like Post Trader at Fort Laramie or something on the next Tales of the Trails. We'll see. If I get a chance, I might take a break from the podcast. I'll read one of these other books I've got here. I've got a bunch of them. I can't remember. Did we talk about Warbonnet Creek on Tales of the Trails already? I think we did.
We mentioned it in the Red Clouds War episodes, I think.
Well, it wasn't during Red Clouds War. I think we did talk about it a little bit. Anyway.
Was that in the 76 campaign?
That was during 76, yeah.
Yeah, Centennial campaign episode.
I was going to say, because I've got a book on it, and it's pretty quick read. Be a quick talk.
But, I think you just touched on it.
Right. But anyway, we'll come up with something. I might, just talk about something I already know a little bit about, like up at Fort Laramie or, whatever. Might do a little fur trade. Who knows? Might do a little bit of everything. So anyway, we'll be back in 2 weeks here. We'll have Garrett back. And then once things kind of get settled down and I get done with this first podcast, I'll take a little break and then maybe we can have some other guests come in and see if we can get some stuff worked out there. So anyway, I want to thank you all again for coming on, joining in with us. It was a great night. We had up to just a little over 50 people watching at one time, according to this. So thank you all for joining in with that. And all I got left, I guess, is stay tuned, keep your powder dry, stay safe out there. Y'all take care, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Oh, and then you got to hit this twice.